Thank you for the gift of leadership and the responsibility entrusted to those who serve here. Grant us wisdom to our city officials as we seek the common good. May every decision, every discussion that is made be guided by integrity. We ask for hearts to be opened and a spirit of collaboration to fill this place. And may your grace be so evident in the way words are spoken and how people act and how they lead. And may the efforts for today permeate throughout our community and bear fruit that is positive in our community. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor Johnson, good to see you.
Same here.
We know you well, but take a few minutes and tell us about yourself and your ministry at Insoul.
My name is Joe Johnson. I'm the senior pastor at Insoul Church at 1077 71st School Road. We started this church from the ground up in 2003. We started out at the old Cinema 5 Theater, I think, across from, not Dunkin' Donuts, but Krispy Kreme Donuts. We basically completely renovated that place, stayed there for about 5 years, moved around to 2-3 schools, and then eventually we built the church that we're in now at 71st School Road. And we are just excited about what God is doing in our ministry and in our community. So glad to cooperate and just collaborate with several community programs. And our mission is to reach those who are further away and bring them into a relationship with Jesus Christ. And God is just doing great things in our collaboration with different programs throughout the community.
Pastor, we thank you for the service to the community for 22 years, and thank you for giving us our invocation tonight. If we can give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Council, as we move forward, we have some very special guests, and all of you are special, but we have some guests that we're going to acknowledge tonight in a number of ways who've rendered service to this community in so many different ways. And we will have Mr. Scott Embry of the United Way, the executive director. Also, Tony Wildhaber, development director of the Spirit of North Carolina, for the Spirit of North Carolina Award. Also, Ms. Jacqueline Abbott, if they could please come to the podium at this time. Are any of those representatives here? Good evening.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name is Jacqueline Abbott. I'm actually a community development specialist here in economic and community development. The United Way couldn't be with us tonight. They will be here on May 12th, but I still prepared a speech anyway, so thank you for your time.
And you are actually the recipient.
Yes,
So
sir.
it says that, let me read this. That Scott Embry, United Way of Cumberland County Executive Director, and Tony Wildhaber, Development Director, will present the Spirit of North Carolina Award to Ms. Jacqueline Abbott for exceptional service and leadership in the city's United Way campaign. So we thank you, Ms. Abbott, for a worthwhile cause. Let's give Ms. Abbott a round of applause. And as you get into your speech, tell us a little bit about the United Way program that the city has where we help them in their fundraising.
Sure. So for those of you who don't work for the city manager's office is known affectionately as the CMO. And so the campaign that we've had for the past 2 years is called the CM Olympics, where I've had the assistant city managers all competing with their portfolios to see who can raise the most money for United Way. And then that assistant city manager has to go over the edge in the United Way fundraiser. This year it was assistant city manager Jody Phelps who went over on Saturday. And last year, in our first year of the CM Olympics, I was extremely pleased that my assistant city manager, Kelly Strickland, was the first to go over. And the first year of the United Way campaign, as me chairing it, we raised about $22,000 this past year, we more than doubled that. We raised over $50,000 for the United Way.
That's great.
So I'm truly humbled to receive this award from the United Way. And first, I want to offer my sincere thanks to the City Council for fostering this community collaborative spirit and everything that you do to make our community a better place. To City Manager Hewitt and the Assistant City Managers, thank you for being open to my ideas and jumping in to help bring them to life. A special thanks to my department director, who was just up here with me, Chris Colley, and my assistant director, Alex Baker. Your encouragement and support have meant the world to me. And to every city employee who donated their time and resources in making a difference, thank you. To my parents, thank you for teaching me the importance of serving others before myself. And to my partner, thank you for your encouragement. I would also like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the United Way of North Carolina. Your unwavering commitment to improving lives and strengthening communities continues to inspire me, and I'm proud to be a small part of that. This work is something that I truly believe in, and I get to do it every day at ECD. I'm excited for what we can continue to achieve together, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for this incredible honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Abbott. Thank you to all the members of the city staff, to the city manager's office that participate in the United Way. Thank you, Ms. Jody, for jumping over the edge. We like that. All right, so council, we'll move on to the next presentation. We will ask that Mr. Colley or members of his team from the Community and Economic Development Office to come forth to the podium at this time, and I'll meet you there.
Whereas the week of April 21st through the 25th, 2025 has been designated as National Community Development Week, celebrating the vital work of the community economic development profession. And whereas the City of Fayetteville's Economic and Community Development Department leverages federal, state, and local funding to implement programs and support nonprofit organizations that significantly impact our community by creating and sustainability affordable housing, fostering small business development, addressing community growth, and strengthening neighborhoods through strategic partnerships and resources. Whereas the Economic and Community Development Department administrates programs that directly improve the lives of our residents, including small business assistance and technical support, emergency housing rehabilitation and home repair, development of new affordable housing, targeted neighborhood revitalization, first-time homebuyer assistance, and collaborative efforts with nonprofit organizations and developers. Now, therefore, I, Mitch Colvin, the mayor of the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina, on behalf of the city council and more than 2,008 citizens, do hereby honorably proclaim April 21 through the 25th, 2025 as National Community Development Week, and encourage all citizens to join in recognizing the outstanding work of Economic Community Development Department, whose efforts contribute to the vitality, stability, and I don't know where that went from, of our city by actively engaging with neighborhoods, community partners, and the private sector to build stronger Fayetteville for all. In witness thereof, I hereundo set my hand and cause the great seal of the city of Fayetteville to be affixed this 28th day of April 2025. Mayor Mitch Colvin.
Here, here. the mayor asked me if I want to say anything, but I'm going to be up here plenty later tonight, so I'll do that. I cannot appreciate what these folks do for all of y'all and for me, because there was a time when I did a lot of this stuff by myself and built a team as we went, and I cannot be more proud of the team that we have today. So thank y'all, and thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Colley. Thank you to Community and Economic Development for all that you do. At this time, we would also ask Mr. Jerry Clipp of the Human Resource Department and members of your team, if you could please meet me at the podium. Should have stayed down there, right?
I'd like to invite all the city staff that are present here in the audience to come forward now. Assistant city manager, police, ECD.
You don't have as many people as you, Frank.
Every day in Fayetteville, something powerful is happening. From the early hours to late nights, our public servants are behind the scenes, keeping our city safe, clean, connected, and thriving. They're the faces of dedication, driving progress, protecting neighborhoods, preserving our spaces, and building a better tomorrow. In every department, every role, every corner of Fayetteville, their service keeps our city moving forward. This Public Service Recognition Week, we honor the heart of our city, our people. Thank you for making Fayetteville stronger every single day.
And I'll read a proclamation that's been prepared for all of you. Almost 2,000 or over 2,000 employees that work hard for the citizens every day. And this is from the Mayor's Office of City Council. It reads as follows. The residents of Fayetteville are served every single day by public service employees. These dedicated professionals often go unrecognized as they do the work that helps keep our city running. And whereas many public service, including law enforcement officers, firefighters, and others, risk their lives day in and day out in service to the people of Fayetteville. And whereas public service also includes safety inspectors, solid waste workers, laborers, computer technicians, mechanics, transit operators, office professionals, engineers, and many, many other professions who work tirelessly to serve the people of Fayetteville in efficiency and integrity. And whereas public employees of the city of Fayetteville are committed to the highest standards and are dedicated to providing excellent service to the people who live in Fayetteville. And whereas public services servants at every level allow for continuity that would otherwise be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes leadership and elected officials. And whereas the city of Fayetteville recognizes the contributions of time and talent that you all make by public employees and the importance of the service that you provide to all of us. Now, therefore, I, Mitch Colvin, Mayor of the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina, on behalf of the City Council, more than 208,000, we do hereby proclaim that May 4th through 10th, 2025 is Public Service Week. So this is your week. So y'all take the week off. Thank you to all the city staff. Now we've come to the moment where we will recognize some major contributors to our community. And there are many, many stories. And over the next few weeks and months, we'll continue to highlight many in our community who are doing wonderful and great things and have contributed so much from the citizens' perspective. At this time, we'll ask Mr. Roosevelt Pratt if he could meet me at the podium. I'll go to Councilmember Benavente, who will share some biographical information about the legacy of the legendary Mr. Pratt. But I'll meet you down here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a proud alumnus myself of E. Smith High School, class of 2008, I'm very, very proud to be sharing with everybody some excerpts from the letters of recommendation that our city received in order to bestow this wonderful accomplishment upon Mr. Pratt. The first one comes from our current Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Chalmers, also alumnus and also former principal of E. Smith High School, where she shares, for decades, Mr. Pratt has been a pillar of excellence in the Fayetteville community, shaping the lives of countless young musicians through his passion for music. And under his leadership, the internationally recognized magnificent marching machine, concert band, jazz band, and symphonic bands have flourished, earning accolades at music festivals and band competitions at the local, state, and national levels. However, his greatest achievement extends far beyond these awards and recognition. His greatest achievement can be found in the lives of the countless students he has influenced. His work has strengthened the bond between E. Smith and the greater Fayetteville community, fostering pride, unity, and a deep appreciation for the performing arts. The next brief excerpt comes from Principal Parker, another alumnus. I see Principal Parker in the back. Thank you for being here, sir. The multitude of awards that the band has earned over the years for their outstanding performance is a direct result of Mr. Pratt's tireless efforts, expert mentorship, and dedication to nurturing talent. His ability to inspire, mentor, and cultivate talent has left an indelible mark on countless students, teaching them the value of discipline, teamwork, and civic pride. His influence extends far beyond the band room, contributing significantly to the cultural and artistic spirit of Fayetteville. And the very last excerpt comes from Golden Bull Alumni Association President Katona Thomas. He says, under Mr. Pratt's leadership, the band has not only represented E. Smith High School with distinction, but has also served as a proud ambassador for the city of Fayetteville, performing at prestigious events and earning accolades across the nation. Beyond his role as a band director, Mr. Pratt is a mentor, role model, and pillar of our community. He instills in his students, including myself, this is Katona speaking, as a former MMM percussion section leader, a deep sense of pride, responsibility, and teamwork, values that extend far beyond the marching field. Mr. Pratt's unwavering dedication to uplifting and empowering youth through music and education embodies the very spirit of our city's rich cultural and artistic legacy. Mr. Pratt is so well-deserved. Congratulations again, sir.
So, Mr. Pratt, the highest award that the city of Fayetteville can present to a citizen reads as follows. On behalf of the city of Fayetteville, mayor and council, our city key and coin are proudly presented to Roosevelt Pratt Jr. in grateful recognition of his devoted interest and unwavering commitment to the community this day, April 28, 2025. Congratulations, sir.
Now, Mr. Pratt, you got to bring that key around all over town. You got to bring that to the alumni weekend. You got to bring that around.
Well, this is an honor. I want to thank you all for this prestigious award. I would like to first give honor to God, of course, and He ordered my steps to do everything I've done over the last 3.5 decades with students. So I really thank Him for that. And I must bring my wife up here because none of this is possible without someone holding you up, giving you the words of encouragement, being there to support me in everything that I've done for students, listen to all the things that a band director brings home every day. But y'all know this voice. Y'all heard it all the time on Friday Night Football. Y'all hear this lady, and we came home together. Our band director, Paul Russell, who was both of our band directors. We are high school sweethearts. Yes, we are. And we were blessed to be asked to come home and have this opportunity to do what we do. But I truly thank you all for this award, and it means a lot at this stage of my life. And again, thank you. Thank you so very much.
Great job, Mr. Pratt, and to all the members of E. Smith. And where's Mr. Parker? We're not going to tell. We're the class of none, right? None of your business.
I got you beat, Mayor.
All right, he left. All right. Well, at this time, we also have another presentation to a community member that has toiled in this community for over 30 years. I recently joined him at his anniversary celebration. He has done a lot, both spiritually, civically, politically. He's been a chaplain for the sheriff's office for a number of years. Going to ask the Dr. Mark Rowden if he would come join me at the podium, please, sir. Dr. Rowden is senior pastor at Savannah Missionary Baptist Church and have been there since 2002. He also is the president of Mark Rowden Ministries, which is located on Murchison Road, who holds a number of community initiatives that improve and make the city a better place. So, Dr. Rowden, we believe in giving you all your flowers while you're living. We would like to present you the highest honor that the city of Fayetteville has to offer to its citizens. And it reads as follows: on behalf of the city of Fayetteville, mayor, and city council, our city key and corn are proudly presented to Bishop Dr. Mark Rowden in grateful recognition of his 23 years of devoted interest and unwavering commitment to this community, and is dated April 2025. Thank you, sir.
Certainly, thank you for setting the groundwork. I want my wife to come up as well. I want to thank you, Mayor, and to all of the City Council, because without you all, this would not be possible. I want to thank my wife for being with me 24 years while I served in the military, and 30 years since we've been here in Fayetteville working. Now, I won't say that she had not complained, because she know how to give rebuke. But seriously, she has been a strong supporter throughout, from the gun buyback to, all of the things with the Cape Fear Regional Bureau for Community Action, and working with the Economic Development Committee some years ago, back when Dr. King was and president. We're so very grateful for this honor. To the citizens, thank you all so much for your continued support and prayers, because without your prayers, we would not be able to do what we do. As the pastor from Inso came up, we as pastors understand the challenges that's in our communities, but we are willing to face the challenges that we have to make our communities better. I want to thank those members of Savannah and for MRM who came out on tonight. Mayor, City Council, thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you to Dr. Rowden and to the real heroes in the room, Mrs. Pratt, Mrs. Rowden. Thank you for trying to help them out now. So, all right. Well, we do have a couple of announcements, and then we need to move into tonight's agenda. I'll go to Councilmember Thompson, then Councilmember Davis, and then Councilmember Courtney Banks McLaughlin has a guest that she will ask to come up and have words.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me lift up two events. Both is for our youth, and one is for Jack Britt High School. Every year they do a, display at the ASOP. That's the Airborne Special Operations Museum. This year is the 60th anniversary of the Vietnam War. They have put in long hours of their history to put out literature, to put out recordings, to put out artifacts, all so you can be remembered of all those who have served during that era. So please, if you have time, take time out to go right across the street to the ASOP, that's the Airborne Special Operations Museum, to study, admire, and appreciate the hard work that our youth are doing in this community out of Jack Britt High School. Second, I'd like to lift up, and everybody knows I'm a bowler at heart. We have 8 individuals, and let me read some of this. We have 8 youth individuals from the surrounding area that is going to, where are they going? They are going to Green Bay, Wisconsin from July 19th, July 11th through the 19th. And they're all from the B&B Bowling Center that is going to represent the city of Fayetteville in the United States Junior Bowling Championship in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Wow. So please, if you have time, please go visit B&B Bowling Alley at 303 Bragg Road. You can call Miss Nancy Schruck, that's CHENK, at 910-484-5179 to lend your support. Our youth are doing great things in our community, and every opportunity I get, Mr. Mayor, I want to lift them up. God bless you and have a wonderful day.
Let's give our kids a round of applause for us. Thank you. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If the chair and the vice chair of the Fayetteville Next Advisory Commission will come up, I want them to tell us about their Next Generation Business Summit that they are having on May the 8th. And they are here, Mr. Nathan Cuffey and Laquita Miller.
Good evening, Mayor Colvin, City Council, our city staff, and citizens of the city of Fayetteville. As he stated, my name is Nathan Cuffey, and this is Laquita Miller. We are the chair and vice chair of the Fayetteville Next Advisory Commission, and we want to extend an invitation to everyone to our second annual Fayetteville Next Generation Business Summit. This is another amazing event to bring people out and provide lots of information about getting into the workforce, as well as even entrepreneurship. So we'll be having 2 sessions happening on Thursday, May the 8th. First one starting at 9 a.m. That is, how did I get that job? And it's an ability to come in and hear from people who have grown in various industries and how they got into those positions and how you can find yourself in those positions as well. And then that'll lead into a munch and mingle, a networking session with some food. And then we'll roll into the second portion of the afternoon that will have a lot of entrepreneurs that have grown within this area, as well as people who have grown out of Fayetteville, amazing entrepreneurs that will be speaking about that path in business. If you were looking to sign up for this, although our commission is chartered to focus on the age groups of 20 to 40, this is open to all of the community. There's a lot of amazing information out there, so come and get it. If you're looking to sign up, that can be found on our page within the city's website, as well as on our social media pages, both Instagram and Facebook. Our handle is at Fayetteville Next, pretty easy to find. We'll have sign-up links on there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cuffey, Ms. Miller, for your work with Fayetteville Next and working with the generation that you work with. We've talked about our youth, now the young adults and the group that you work with. Thank you for the hard work you're doing. At this time, I'll go to Councilmember Banks McLaughlin, who has a special guest she'd like to invite up to give us an update.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. If I could have Miss Kayla from the organizer for the Dogwood Festival to come forward to just talk about the updates on how successful the event was despite circumstances and the importance of the community supporting this initiative each year.
Absolutely.
Good evening.
Good evening. So good evening, Council, Mayor Colvin, and all my neighbors and community. For those that don't know me, my name is Kaylin Suarez, and I am the Executive Director of this year's Dogwood Festival. And next, I'm not going anywhere.
Good.
I'm the mother of 2 beautiful children and also the spouse to an active duty civil affairs officer. So I stay busy, as you can imagine. I've been asked to highlight some of the wonderful things that have happened at the festival this year, and while it was a beautiful display of what community can do when you come together, it does feel like it's overshadowed because of one negative moment. Now, while that is said, downtown communities are the heartbeat of many cities. Ours here in Fayetteville is no different. We're a place of where history and culture and connection come together. Special events and festivals breathe life into these spaces, creating opportunity for local business to thrive, for neighbors to meet, and visitors to experience the unique spirit of our community. These events don't just bring joy, they bring fuel to our local economy. They also strengthen our sense of pride. They remind us that we have a shared experience and foundation of what community values truly are. With that said, we bring great energy and excitement when we come together. With all of that does come great responsibility. Safety must always be the top priority, and it's not just about emergency plans and crowd management. It's about creating an environment where families feel secure, every volunteer feels valued, and every visitor feels welcomed. That is why all events meet with representatives from each department involved and have our special event committee. I am very proud of our special event committee. I'm very proud of how our EAP that we enacted went. That one moment won't overshadow that, because for those of you that don't know, our car show had 5 entries when we started, and if you didn't come out, there was not a darn spot open on Person Street. There was a little bit of a crowd. We had about 40 to 50 cars. My car show guy can correct me from our board, but I'm so sorry, I'm wrong.
Wow.
We had an amazing turnout, so we might have to have a whole new spot for the car show, and that's a local favorite that we absolutely had to bring back. Now, if you were there on Saturday before things decided to get a little haywire, that park was packed. It felt like the first Dogwood I went to, which had Parmalee and Coolio at. That's what the community is supposed to feel like. It's supposed to look out there, and it doesn't matter what your nationality, your creed, your race is. It felt like you were at the biggest block party, and that was fantastic. I have to give a shout out to those that told me it was not doable for us to expand into Person Street this year. That Taste of West Africa, Miss Isabella, I know she's here, as well as Miss Daphne and Miss Tanya and a couple of others. They helped bring that together. They brought that stage. They planned the acts that were down there. They brought those vendors because we all had a talk starting back in December that we wanted to see that expansion happen. Around the marketplace, we had vendors. We had vendors up and down Hay and Ray, and that park was packed with vendors as well as down the promenade. Now, that's what I can do in a 3.5-month span with the trust of my board and support. Y'all watch out what's going to happen next year.
All right.
Now, that part wasn't in my speech. That just came ad lib. So I do want to thank everybody for believing in the power of community, the magic of festivals, the importance of keeping what the heartbeat of downtown is like, and we're going to continue to thrive, and we're going to continue to move forward in the positive direction. I do appreciate everybody's support, and I understand moving forward, we are going to continue to work together because it is about community. So I'm very thankful for all of you and everybody that came out. I had quite a few council members came out Sunday. I had both Kathy and Mitch out there. I felt more like family than anything, and I want to tell you guys thank you. And being a military spouse, coming back here a second time because it was #1 on our list, I'm at home, and I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kaylin. Thank you for the great job that you all did. I know that this was going to get you to give us some estimates or some numbers, but I know this was very well attended. You want to speak to how the crowd was compared to the previous festivals?
I will be glad to give those numbers. So while we don't have the numbers exact at this point in time because the system we use, it takes a hot minute for it to bring those in, For those that don't know, we didn't have necessarily an ED last year, but we had a group of about 5 to 7 board members and Miss Jackie Tuckey, who is here tonight, and a prior.
We know Miss Tuckey.
Yes. So those of you that know Jackie know she's one hell of a woman, and she did a bang-up job last year as far as making sure that festival went off with the support of the board. With that said, I was hired December 16th, so during Christmas, and with 3.5 months to raise funds, to plan everything, and that 3.5 months, thanks to our sponsors, we raised $100,000 in sponsorship.
Wow. Good.
That doesn't
3 months. Impressive.
Thank you. That doesn't include what we got from our vendors and the estimated cost of this year's festival that we will lose $40,000 from because of entertainment not being able to play, because for us safety is first. That this festival still cost us between $150,000 and $175,000, and that is with the city donating space, resources, and making sure that we're able to have the festival that we all want to see in this community. Now, numbers have taken a dip since COVID, since other past affairs and things of that nature. So I will say that this year's festival was well attended in comparison over the last couple of years. And that makes me happy. Now, exact numbers I can't tell you, but we all can look at the car show. If we just take that as like a little glimpse.
12X, right?
Yeah,
All right.
exactly. So, but as far as numbers goes, I'll be glad to have that number report to you guys. And if you have any questions or anything at all, I'm always available for those.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And,
Yes.
and let's give her another round of applause, y'all.
Thank you.
All right. Quickly, I have Councilmember Thompson has something, and then I'll go to Councilmember Hare and Benavente for announcements, and then we have to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to put in a plug, and I just want to refer back to my youth again, since this is pretty much a youth day. When I brought my wife downtown to the Dogwood Festival, we got out of the car and we turned the corner. I thought it was an incident, because it probably had to be 2,000 to 3,000 people right there on Hay Street at the corner. And what they were looking at was a wrestling match that they had out there with the full thing. I could not believe my eyes when I seen that many people around a wrestling match. So I don't know what you did to attract that many people, but that wrestling match was banging. So thank you very much.
Good deal. All right. I'll go to Councilmember Hare and then Benavente.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Let me get a little support from the audience. Let me hear you say College Fair.
College Fair.
Oh, that's so dry. That's so dry. Let me hear you say College Fair.
College Fair.
Yeah, it is getting close to our 8th annual HBCU College Fair experience. We have grown so much. I'm so proud of everyone that worked together with this. We started out in the Smith Recreation Center. We have grown so much with partnerships and city and colleges from all over the world coming to our city that we are now in the Crown Complex. So this will be our 8th annual HBCU College Fair. I will be making announcements all the way up to August the 16th, 2025 from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. And as I stated, that is at the Crown Expo Center. If you are graduating very, very soon, we're going to have graduation soon. What a great, great opportunity to connect, graduating high school, to connect with our colleges, to hear from current students, for them to receive community service. That's one of the support things that we have. There will also be scholarship opportunities, on-site registration. So we're asking everyone to continue to help get the word passed out. Moms, dads, big mamas, big daddies, get the word out to your children, your grandchildren for the HBCU 8th Annual College Fair experience. And we have so many partners. I can't name them all, but I will name two. Big thumbs up to Beta Chi chapter of Omega Psi Phi and the Group Theory Group. Thank you all for all the work you're doing, calling the colleges all over North Carolina. It's going to be a big day, but it's going to be a big day for our graduating seniors. Thank you, Mayor, for that opportunity.
Thank you, Councilmember Hare. Councilmember Benavente.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Letting folks know that starting on May the 1st, which is this Thursday, May is already here, it is going to be Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I'm very proud to announce a wonderful occasion this Saturday. I know that Mayor Pro Tem Jensen and former Chief of Police Braden were over at the Korean Presbyterian Church with me last year. This Saturday, however, the Korean Baptist Church is going to be having a Korean food festival. And so I want to encourage everybody who's interested to see about attending that. I'm trying to pull up the flyer, and I know I just sent it to the mayor, so I know it's not far. Here it is. The first annual K-Food Festival from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday, May the 3rd. So if you like kimbap, bibimbap, tteokbokki, kimchi, come get your fill. Fayetteville Korean Baptist Church is on 6873 Cliffdale Road. Again, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. this Saturday, May the 3rd.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Benavente. And thank you all for your patience as we've gone through community recognitions and announcements. Council, with that, we'll move now to 5.0's the City Manager's Report. Mr. Hewitt.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Just one quick update. Tomorrow night, starting at 6:30, city staff will be at Kiwanis Rec Center for our first return of Fayetteville Out Front. We will have presentations by Economic and Community Development, Purchasing, Development Services. It'll be co-hosted by Assistant Managers Kelly Strickland and Jeff Yates. Returning this almost to how to do business with the city. In all its various facets. Staff will also be available to answer questions about any topics of current concern or interest as well. So we look forward to hosting that tomorrow night at Kiwanis at 6:30 p.m. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, Council, moving to 6.0 is the approval of the agenda. I know there was one item we were looking to add. If you could make that item 7.0 B1, I guess. No, 7.0 A14. All right, Council, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of that. Councilmember Banks McLaughlin, is that a motion? All right. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Thompson. Oh, I see it. I got you. All right. Any discussion on the motion? All right, Council, I'll look to you for your votes. Madam Clerk, who are we missing? Make that, Councilman, make that. What you doing? Okay, all right. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. Those voting, Council, moving to the consent items. With that, I'll entertain a motion. Councilmember Thompson.
Motion to approve the consent, Mr.
All right, this motion by Councilmember Thompson. Is there a second? Are you a second with the removal of?
Yes, sir, that's fine.
All right, which items?
7.0 A12, and then just to clarify with the city clerk, we just added something to the consent agenda. What number was that?
7.0 A14. 7.0 A14.
And then also to remove 7.0 A14 as well.
Okay, so up or down votes for those two? All right, so is a, sorry? Councilman Hondros?
Can we add 7.0A3 to that as well? I'll need to be recused from that one.
7.0 A3, okay. All right, so.
I would like to amend
7,
mine.
Mayor Cohen.
Ma'am?
It's 7, not 3.
I'm sorry, 7.0A7.
7.0 A7, okay. All right, just to repeat, so there's a motion to approve the consent with the exception of 7.0 A7, 7.0 A12, and 7.0 A14. Is that correct?
It's 11. It's actually 11.
It's actually 11, not 7.07. I apologize.
All right.
We're both sorry.
All right, so let me repeat. There's a motion to approve consent with the exception of 7.0 A11, 7.0 A12, and 7.0 A14. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Is that it, Councilmember Thompson? Okay.
I believe the motion is to approve the consent agenda to remove items 7.0A12 and 7.0A14, and for Councilmember Hondros to be recused from 7.A11. Am I correct?
No. So we're going to approve those items. We're going to take them one by one. When it gets to 7.0811, I guess he'll ask for a recusal at that time, and then we'll proceed down in order.
So the motion is to approve the consent
Yeah.
minus A 7.0812 and 7.0814.
And 7.0A11. We have to
Gotcha.
pull
And
it,
11,
so,
gotcha.
so it's not passed. at this
Tracking,
time.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right. Is there a second still in place? The second confirmed?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So, council, look to you for action on consent with the exception of A11, A12, and A14. All right. Motion carries. All right, starting with 7.0811. That is the one where Councilmember Hondros, is there a motion to have him recused? Councilman Benavente, is that your light for that? Yes, sir. All right, there's a motion by Councilmember, well, does he make the request, Madam Attorney?
No.
Okay. All right, there's a motion by Councilmember Benavente, seconded by, is that Mayor Pro Tem? All right, to recuse Councilmember Hondros from 7.0811. Any discussion on that? All right, council, I'll look to you for your votes for recusal. All right, who are we missing besides Councilmember Hondros? Councilmember McNair. All right, motion carries. All right, he's recused. So I'll entertain a motion for 7.0811 or discussion or something of disposal. Is that, Mayor Pro Tem, is that your light?
No, but it can be.
All right.
I make a motion that we approve 7.0811. Do I need to say it out?
No.
Okay.
All right, there's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem to approve 7.0811. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Thompson. Discussion. All right, council, look to you for your votes for 7.0811. All right, motion carries unanimous by those voting. All right, Councilmember Hondros, you're back in the saddle. 7.0812, Councilmember Benavente, you pulled that one.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Attorney, I understand that it was your office that put together this ordinance amendment, or was it a brand-new ordinance altogether?
It's a new ordinance altogether, sir.
Could you speak to it just very briefly?
Yes, sir. This ordinance makes it unlawful for individuals to impede the flow of traffic in the street as well as to block a sidewalk.
And Mr. Mayor, I understand that it might be best if someone else makes a motion other than myself, because I'll probably be voting against this particular matter. I know that folks are familiar with the recent issues with the Salvation Army, the lack of any sort of overnight shelter currently in the city of Fayetteville. And when I think of the needs of our most vulnerable communities, our unhoused community, we should be thinking of ways to find appropriate transitional housing and eventually permanent housing for them. It seems though right now, all we can seem to manage is more of ways to get them caught up and in trouble. And if we can start to help folks before we have to hurt folks, that's going to be my interest. So any resolution like this, while I can recognize its veracity, could not support it if it's not coupled with some sort of support for those folks rather than continuing to put the screws to them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Benavente. Council, I look to you for a motion for this, and just for clarification purposes, this is not specifically targeted to that. This is impeding, blocking, parking on the sidewalk. Is that right, Madam Attorney?
Yes, sir.
All right. And I do want to remind everyone that the city of Fayetteville invested $7+ million for the Day Resource Center that we currently stepped out on good faith, and are here to support our county commissioners who receive the federal resources and state resources for homeless, leading that effort. We're here to also continue our partnership with Manna Church and the 27+ bed facility that we partner with them on, and the support for the Salvation Army that was offered, and continue to stand ready to help our partners with that. But just want to give a little context to that, and we have a presentation coming tonight from our chairwoman from the Homeless Committee, Councilmember McNair, that's been messing with her buttons tonight. But she's been doing a great job and has some exciting things for us as it turns in terms of in this space. But I just want to clarify that this is not specifically targeting that. This is for a number of things that could be covered by that. All right, Councilmember Banks McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of questions for staff. The first question is, if this is approved, when does it go into effect? And will it be enough time to notify the residents so that they are aware? And my second question is, if for some reason they violate this ordinance, what is the punishment or what are the violations?
So the penalty is up to $50. It's in our code that this can be punishable as a Class 3 misdemeanor, which would make it a crime. And your question about effective date, we have it proposed as May 26, 2025.
Question as far as how would residents be notified?
Staff will work with our marketing and communications department to make sure we issue a campaign to educate the citizenry about it.
All right, Councilmember Hare has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. And maybe the city attorney can help in responding to this question. I somewhat know myself. How did we get to this point to be able to get this ordinance? Because I remember the concerns that we had been receiving over the years, but how did we get to that point? And also, I have to echo what our mayor stated. We support our unhoused community. We've got several things in place and several things we're going to be looking to do in this upcoming budget to add to that. So tell us, how did we get to this point to create this ordinance?
Yes, sir. We received a number of complaints over the course of months about the sidewalks being blocked. And we examined our code and realized we didn't have anything that spoke to this at all. So this will be filling a gap in the code.
Mm-hmm. And if I could also ask, because I get this question quite often about blocking sidewalks, there are several communities that sit in my district where residents park on the sidewalk or across the sidewalk, and especially some of those, whatever community it is, and especially when they're out doing their power walkings in the morning. I have a couple of ladies that are in their power chairs, and they like to just kind of get out and help pick up paper and things in the community. If there's a car that's parked on the sidewalk, how would that be possibly enforced?
This ordinance does impact that.
You say it does?
It does.
Mm-hmm.
There are some definitions in the code, and so to impede it means to render the use of a street or sidewalk unreasonably difficult or dangerous.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Councilman McNair.
Mayor, I guess my question would be, at what point, or would they be issued a warning or directed to our resources at the Day Resource Center before getting a citation?
That is not included in this ordinance. So it would require an amendment of council if council would like to include that.
All right.
Did you understand what I said?
I heard your question about the warning.
Yes.
Okay, and so, Madam Attorney, are you able to separate a warning for sleeping as you are for me parking, or is it a warning period that can be embedded, or is it specific to certain things that it could be separated for? Because impeding is impeding, right?
We could certainly delineate what the warning would be required for before we implement it.
In that case,
Sir?
I'd like to make a motion in that case.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I ask that we refer this back to our city attorney to include additional language that references some type of warning process. We know that the real incident, what really brought this to our desk was that there was people sleeping on a cot downtown in the middle of a sidewalk. So it's not about parking. It's not about these other things that we're trying to kind of couple it with. We know what this was about. And we can talk about the Day Resource Center. It's not an overnight shelter. So at the end of the day, some of the responses that you and Councilmember Hare shared just do not actually apply to the actual situation that people are dealing with lack of overnight shelter anywhere in the city of Fayetteville. So I would ask again that we move to refer this back to city staff to consider some sort of warning process so that we can more equitably assist folks rather than punishing them without an alternative right now in the city of Fayetteville.
All right. Well, thank you for reading my mind. So what I would say, you could very easily capture that if, and you don't know the intent that I have, because you do have people. I had a disabled gentleman on Ramsey Street that the sidewalks were blocked, that rides in his automatic chair from the VA to his home up from Ramsey Street, that's riding with his auto chair in the middle of a 6-lane, most busiest highway in the city. So there are a number of factors that do it. But the way to capture the interest could be to approve the ordinance, to separate a portion out for in the event that there are some issues with some warning, to couple it with some other things that could be later defined. So that is an option, Council, that you can pass it with provisions to come back with some of those things that supported some of the interest in the event that it is that. But an ordinance is an ordinance. For impeding is impeding. So.
The floor,
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor.
sure.
So
Yeah.
my motion will still be just to remand this back to staff
Okay.
for some additional consideration to include some of the things that you said, Mr. Mayor, but I would just be asking for a second from someone.
All right. So the motion as is to remove it all and send it back. Is there a second? All right. Seeing none, motion fails for lack of a second. All right. So council, entertain a motion could separate it as an option. Oh, you was a second? All right. So Councilmember McNair, you're not pressing your buttons. Okay.
Got
All
some
right.
sticky stuff on it.
All right. So there's a motion by Councilmember Benavente, seconded by Councilmember McNair. Discussion. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if this does pass and we send it back to staff, what I would ask for, because first I've ever heard of somebody sleeping on a cot on the sidewalk was 5 minutes ago when you just said that. So I guess my concern is, as we've been here talking, we are talking about people sleeping on a sidewalk, and we're talking about impeding people getting to and from. And I don't know who has walked down Ramsey Street, but I have, and it scares me with all that traffic going back and forth. So if we are talking about this and we are talking that we're going to give a warning, or we're going to say maybe it's okay, that there needs to be some roads in there that it's a public safety hazard. It's not okay, because how many times has the VA fence been hit on Ramsey Street? I know that we had discussed this a few years ago, that it's a public safety issue of people camping near a highway. I just don't see where that is a safety thing for us to allow. That's all I had to say, but that's what I would wish for if this goes back to council. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you. All right. So there's a motion on the floor by Councilman Benavente.
Mayor.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilman Benavente.
Mr. Manager or Madam Attorney, can you clarify what was brought to us about this issue? My understanding, it was a situation off of Person Street, not Ramsey Street, Person Street. It's not frequented the same way that is being described, but that there was some sort of living situation happening there.
You are correct. There was a couple that was camped on the sidewalk near the courthouse. It was not even a question of whether or not there was room available anywhere. That's a whole separate consideration. And when we looked in the ordinance, as everyone has said, did not provide us with the guidance from council as to people sleeping on cots on the sidewalk, people laying on cots on the sidewalk, living on sidewalks, or even parking their cars on the sidewalks. And so I think it was in January that this was referred from council back for work. I think that's what's in the CAM.
Thank
Yes.
you, Mr. Hewitt. I just want to make sure we're not conflating the situation. It's not about Ramsey Street or some busy highway. This is actually pretty much right across the street from my law office in Person Street. And the reason that I think it matters is because we can help those people, and that's exactly what needs to happen. Changing the law so that we can somehow find a way to arrest those people is actually counterintuitive to what ought to be happening. If someone is homeless, they deserve services, they deserve help. And if the best that we can do is change the entire law in this entire city just so we can target them, that's a mistake. We are better than that.
So Councilman Benavente, the option was given. Unfortunately, when an ordinance is passed, it's not applicable to just Person Street or across from your law office. There are situations that we all have encountered that may be impacted by the passing of it, including what you said, right? Including what you said. So that's why I gave council an option, but your motion and second on the floor is to send it all back. But there are circumstances where sidewalks are impeded, people park on it, and people have to find alternative means around it to transfer through the city. And there's nothing right now on the books that allows for the enforcement of that, which could present a loss of life situation. But at the end of it, is your motion. Point taken. And so, council, we'll look to you for a vote up or down to remove and remit back for further discussion. Yeah, his is to remove it, take it, send it back for additional information. Yes, sir.
I'm trying to be quiet over here, but I'm having a hard time understanding the ordinance. When do we write ordinances to give warnings?
To give one, yeah.
I mean, isn't it up to the individuals that enforce the law on whether they want to give a ticket or give a warning? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I had.
All right. Council, I look to you for your votes. And this is to remove. All right, who are we missing? Council. All right. Councilman McNair, what are you? Green or red? Green or red? Okay. All right. Motion fails 7-3 to refer back. All right, council, entertain a new motion if we can. All right, let's see. Any lights? Madam Clerk, I need you to clear that so I can see who pressed the button. Is there a motion to approve the impeding? And you can put whatever kind of barriers or contingencies you like. Councilmember Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I motion that we approve item 7.0A12.
All right. Is that second by Councilmember Davis? All right. Discussion, is it? All right. Okay. All right. Council, I look to you for your votes. All right. Motion carries 7-3. Moving to the next item, 7.0A14. Councilman Benavente, you pulled that item.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Phelps, I think that you presented upstairs on this topic. Could you share with us exactly what this issue was?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a resolution to support the preservation of Powell bill funding that we would send to the members of the General Assembly. There is a proposal in the state budget that would eliminate or cut funding for municipalities over 150,000 in population, which that would be the city of Fayetteville. Our Powell bill funding last year, I think, was about $6.9 million, and that goes to street repaving and street preservation. And so we certainly want to advocate for the preservation of that.
Now, just further information, Mrs. City Manager Phelps, you're saying that this is becoming a pressing issue, an urgent matter that we had to amend the agenda to make sure it happens today. Why?
The Senate proposed their draft budget. We want to make sure we get this in the hands of the members of the General Assembly this week so that we have time. We don't know when the House is going to take up the budget, but we want to make sure we engage in that education and make sure everyone understands the importance of Powell bill funding for our city and cities that are also our size and larger than us.
And is this particular move or way of going about it was a recommendation not necessarily by our city staff, but by who?
We work with our state consultant, Checkmate, and John Easterling, and in coordination with the other large cities in North Carolina who are doing similar, writing similar letters or resolutions as well.
Can you name some of those other cities?
It would be, off the top of my head, the 6 or 7 largest cities, so Raleigh, Charlotte, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and Fayetteville.
And would this be going to our Democratic and Republican representatives and delegation?
Absolutely. We are sending it to everyone, bipartisan, of course. We want to make sure we get it to our local delegation first, so we make sure they understand the importance of this funding in their community. We'll also send it to other members of the House and the Senate as we work to educate.
So I think the very last question I have, Ms. Phelps, is that when it gets to the Raleigh General Assembly, things get very partisan very quickly. And I know that the North Carolina Senate made up 30-20 Republican. I think in the House, I just pulled it up, again, a majority of 71 Republicans over the 49 Democrats. What are the cons of passing a resolution like this?
I don't want to speak to the partisan nature. I think that everyone can agree that roadway safety, pedestrian safety, and motor vehicle safety and economic development in our transportation network is a nonpartisan issue. It is a matter of making Fayetteville safe, making Fayetteville prosperous, and we know that that $7 million, really $14 million over the biennium is a critical source of funding for us to maintain our pavement preservation program and continue to accelerate it and make sure that our streets are safe to drive on for residents and visitors.
So we really didn't get any feedback about why that was included in the Senate bill then, or this particular Powell bill?
I don't want to speak to what anyone may have thought of in their proposal, but I do understand that in Raleigh there's conversations about, of course, Hurricane Helene support, cutting funding, but I'm not sure. I'm not the General Assembly, so I don't want to speak to what was in their mind.
Can you, in the very last question, this sense of urgency, what sort of deadlines are we under that we're trying to get it to them by the time they take a vote on this in the coming weeks?
We aren't sure of the timeline for the House side yet, but we want to make sure that we get it in their hands and have those conversations as quickly as possible so that there's time to answer questions and have a conversation if we have any time to make an impact there.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. Councilman Harry, you had a question?
Not just mainly a question, but a request, because I do want to support us to continue to receive our Powell bill allocations. But if staff could, if other council members would like it also, I personally would like the resolution or the motion or however it is that we're going to be sending it out. If you could also send that individually to us through email so I can individually send that to the delegation from my personal email. Thank you.
Thank you. And council, all of our delegation members represent both parties, always try to bring resources back to the community, which is their goal. And so this is an issue to me that transcends politics because I think both Republicans and Democrats understand the importance of resources and street paving and those things that make communities better. What's unique about this is if this targets larger urbanized areas, we're the only one that's located in a Tier 1 county designation, which has special exceptions for resources. So I think that's why it's important today that this is before us. Timely, Ms. Jody. Senate did pass their proposed budget. Now we're waiting on the House, and then they'll start to work it. But if there are no further questions, I'll go to council for action on this. Councilman Banks McLaughlin, you had a question?
Yeah. I just wanted to just reiterate what I mentioned upstairs as far as in the resolution, if we can make sure that we provide a memo showing that prior funds, how they were used, so that we can get those, tell them the negative effects that can impact our community if we don't receive those funds. Thank you.
All right. And so with that, council, entertain a motion. All right. Councilman Thompson, is that your button?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
I make a motion that we approve item A07.0A14, the PAL bill funding.
All right. So motion by Councilman Thompson, seconded by Councilman Hare. Discussion, Councilman Benavente.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make sure I make it clear why I pulled this item and why I asked for discussion and to clarify all these details. The idea that we would pass a resolution through consent without putting it before the people, I think, is an issue of transparency. We know that the issues in Raleigh can get hyper-partisan. We know that that's the kind of Senate bill that was passed. And if we are going to stand against that as a city, listen, I welcome that. I think there's plenty of resolutions that we could be sending up to Raleigh on a number of issues. But if we're going to be making this a common practice and the expectation is that we have a 10-0 resolution, I think the other side of the expectation is that we pull it from any sort of consent agenda. We ensure that there's adequate discussion. We ensure that there's adequate presentation on exactly what we're talking about, or else we risk, I think, not considering all the pros and the cons of sending such a message to our delegation in Raleigh on behalf of the citizens of Fayetteville. So, I think Assistant City Manager Phelps expressed the importance of the Powell funding. I think that's certainly relevant. I just also believe that Mr. Easterling, I think, should come back and probably speak to us more about exactly how we're positioning and posturing ourselves as a city on issues that are happening over in Raleigh, because this is a very tenuous time when we're all dealing with our budgets. And my understanding is that, we may not be getting as much money back from Raleigh as we're used to. So is this going to help us get more money back from Raleigh, or is this going to hurt us getting more money back from Raleigh if we're going to be standing against a Republican majority that has already said that they want to do things a certain way?
Well, again, I don't think anyone's invoking the partisanship in asking for money, except the obvious. But they said closed mouth don't get fed. So we're now asking for $14 million. So council will look to you for your votes to ask them to consider continuing our funding that has been vital to our street paving and maintenance. All right, council, look to you for your votes. All right. Motion carries. Unanimous. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we go on to the next item of business, I want to personally thank Assistant City Manager Phelps for coming with this. This is a new day. This is going to get us out of Tier 1, and thank you for bringing it to us, that we can do this resolution and talk about going up there to get $14 million. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, so council, moving to staff reports. Whew, that was the longest consent section I've ever seen. All right, 8.01, third quarter financial update. Mr. Yates. Judge Whitfield's back there. Where you at, Judge? How you doing? All right. Any other elected officials or judges back there? I want to stay in good graces with the courts. All right. All right, Mr. Yates.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight I have for you the third quarter financial update. We are rounding and getting ready for the end of the fiscal year. So we have a lot going on, and as we'll discuss in our next item, the CIP is coming to you tonight, the operating budget on the 12th. So we're about to get thick into the budget discussion. So this is a good place to start with where we are performing for 2025. So bottom line up front, the city's financial health is strong. The general fund's performing as expected. And when we say as expected, what we do is we take a look at the prior years, going back at least 3 years, to look at how we're performing against those years, not only on a percentage, but on an actual dollar value basis. And I'll highlight a little bit more when I show you some of the tables. But I wanted to give a little explanation of what we would expect to see as something similar to what we've had in the past. And if we don't see something similar, we try to figure out why that is. Vacancies continue to be a positive and a risk. You'll hear from the police department and the fire department tonight talking about staffing. If you remember back during the budget, we froze 37 police officer positions and reallocated that funding to help offset the pay increases. And we also assumed about $8.5 million in vacancy savings to help balance the budget last year. The good news is we are achieving that. The downside is that when you don't have staff, services can and do suffer. The final piece of that, as you talked about just a minute ago, adopting that resolution, geopolitical and economic pressures are impacting the city in a variety of ways. And that includes the political pressures occurring in Raleigh at the federal level and so forth, as well as the tariffs, ongoing discussion. It's making it more difficult to start to get supplies, vehicles, all those different things are starting to occur. So we're seeing that, and we'll highlight that a little bit more when we start talking about the CIP. So our cash flow, the city operates on a cash flow deficit early in the year, then we get all of our cash in with property taxes. So we then operate at a positive from a cash flow for about 3 or 4 months. As you can see, our sources about $137.8 million, and our uses about $135.7 million. So we're still in that phase. We're a little bit ahead of where we were last year. But that's mostly due to a change in the way we acquired capital last year. We bought some vehicles, purchased some apparatus that we'd already paid for and so forth. So like I said, we're tracking on about what we would expect from a cash flow perspective. General fund revenue, I just want to point out how this table works because I think it came up this morning in one of our meetings and then it also was some questions. So when we're looking at revenues, the green and the far column quarterly indicator, when that number is green, that means we have gotten more revenue than we did in the prior year. When that number is red, that means we got less revenue than we did in the prior year. So in this table, green is good, red is bad, right? So if you go through there, you can see we're tracking ahead in our ad valorem taxes, and our other taxes, but in our unrestricted intergovernmental revenues, we are trailing a little bit behind. That's probably will be due to a timing issue. Sales taxes take a couple of months to get in, so they're always trailing behind a little bit. So we'll keep our eye on that, and we'll continue to maintain and watch that. The other things you see, miscellaneous revenues, and then also other financing sources and non-operating revenues are trading a little bit behind where we were in the prior years. That's more than likely due to one-time items that occurred during those times, a sale of land or something to that effect. But generally speaking, across the board, our revenues are about where we'd anticipate. We've gotten about 63% of what we'd expect to get this year, with against about 69%. And I think that's largely due to a delay in getting our property taxes. Even though we're trailing ahead on the ad valorem, there is a delay in our motor vehicle taxes coming from the county, and then also some delay in our sales taxes. The next we look at is the expenditure side. So as you can see, when we talk about same issue, the red means that on the expenditures, we're spending more than we did in the prior year, and green means we are spending less than what we did in the prior year. We are ahead on our salaries, but that's to be expected. If you remember, we put forward, I think it was a little bit more than $10 million of salary increases last year for fire, police, and employees. So we would anticipate that this year we would be ahead and spending ahead when it comes to salary and benefits. Another big driver of that is going to be overtime. We've seen a lot of overtime in police and fire due to vacancies. There's also several $100,000. I want to say probably about $700,000 that's due to Hurricane Helena, which we've spent the money. We're working with FEMA and the state to get that money back. So that's showing up in that line as well. So all in all, just because we're trailing ahead of where we were in 2024 on expenditure side, it's not a level of concern, because I'll show you kind of where we are in just a second on the vacancy savings, but it is something to keep our eye on and be able to explain. Our operating expenses are about where we were last year. Professional and contractual services, almost exactly. Our capital outlay, we're ahead, and like I mentioned, in that $11.2 million in the prior year, I believe there was an apparatus purchase actually last year that we had booked there. So you can go all the way down. We're trailing about $12 million less expenditure this year than we did in the past year. And then basically, the general fund by department, you can see going all the way down. There's a mix of red and green. All of them not significant comparatively. You see in fire, again, fire is down because of that equipment purchase. And then Parks and Rec maintenance, some of the same issues there. But basically, we are trending about where we thought we would be. Down at the bottom of this graphic, you can see the estimated vacancy savings calculation. Through the third quarter, we're estimating we've saved a little over $13 million. That will change. It'll, as we add summer employees and as we add temp staff, some of that number may come down a little bit. But right now, we are tracking a little bit ahead of what we had planned for vacancy funding and vacancy savings. Again, over time, we'll chip away at that savings. So, but if, as long as we end the year at about 8.5 million or more, give or take, then we've achieved the savings we needed to continue to have a balanced budget. So what are some of the other things going on? The detail report, as mentioned, is attached in Granicus, so you can look through that and is available on our website. The next financial report will be, that should say close of the fourth quarter, but will come with the close of the fiscal year in October. So this will be the last time you'll see the quarterly report until the end of the year end. The capital budget is going to be presented tonight. The operating budget will be presented on the 12th. The transparency portal is in development. We plan to launch after July 1st, and that'll be an interactive, online, real-time look at our finances. So you can drill down and see everything in the interest of transparency. We have a possible bond issuance coming up next year. When we talk about the capital program, we'll talk a lot about timing of bonds and kind of those different things. Right now, because we have a lot of things in the planning stage and design stage, the LGC really wants you to have price assurity before you borrow the debt. So, for instance, we're building MacArthur Park. It's going to be about $22 million. Well, before we go borrow the money that we're building that with, we want to be sure that it's only going to cost us $22 million. So if we jump out there and borrow all of that, and then it costs us more than, then the city won't be able to complete that project, or we'll have to find other sources. So the LGC prefers for you to have more of that in hand than not. The final thing, and we've been working really hard, and we continue, and we'll have a strategy we'll bring back to you, working our uncollected accounts. This includes more aggressive use of debt set-off. So we're starting to send more and more to debt set-off, working with the departments, working with our accounts receivable system. As we are wrapping up the implementation of the ERP system, one of the things that is still working through is that receivables process. So working with departments to kind of bring that under that one umbrella. So it's a big task, but we believe it'll be, in the end, it'll pay off. It'll allow us to do a lot more of our collection work and be sure it's facilitating that debt set-off, but also sending things to collections as we should. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions on the financial update.
All right, do have a couple. Have Councilman Maher and then Hondros. Thank you, Mayor. And I sort of want to follow up on our pre-meeting, which I'm pretty sure I'll ask a couple of questions also whenever we receive our police and fire quarterly report. But you stated that as I look over at the general fund expenditures and 12 million plus, that I guess you can say we have in the reserves or not spent, whichever is the best way to say that. And you stated earlier upstairs when I said that I wanted to do all I could to support our police, our fire and our police with new investments in technology. With the lack of a few officers here, and even with our fire department, wherever that lack may be, I support as much technology as we can have that can help them do their job as best as we would like to have that. So let me make sure I'm understanding, and of course for the public to hear. You stated that if a request was, if a line item budget is made or requested for to use some of these funds that are left over, it can only be, it's like a one-time use. I'm gonna let you explain it. I wanna make sure I got it right, I understood it. It's a one-time use. But if the department itself requests it it can, I assume, becomes a line item use. Is that what I understood? If I want to help the council and help our police get some of these additional funds?
Sure. Let me clarify just
Yes,
a couple
sir.
of the points.
Yes, sir.
So this is the operating budget. Look, and what you're referring to, as we talked about, is the fund balance, the essentially revenues over expenditures by the end of the year. That will be known by the October timeframe when our audit is complete. The council's policy is 10%, and our goal is 12% of the preceding year's expenditures. So if you've hit that threshold, then that funding above that can be used for one-time items, is recommended to be used for one-time items. It's ultimately a council decision. Additionally, though, if there is technology or something the council would like to discuss, your operating budget is coming back to you also. With the capitals coming tonight, on the 12th is the operating budget. Those items can be discussed and possibly added during the budget process.
Okay.
That will allow them to be, depending upon the nature of this, if it's software, if it's technology, it's either going to be an ongoing cost or a
Right.
one-time cost.
Right.
But I think that you don't have to wait till October if the council desires to add something back. I believe there were about 13 or 14 projects requested in the CIP.
Yes, sir.
That didn't get recommended for funding because we had to balance the CIP, but are shown in your document, capital, and I'm jumping ahead to the capital presentation, but are in your capital budget book that was provided to you today. Starting, I think, about on page 243, there's a whole list of projects that were included, some public safety projects and so forth. But so there's a lot of time for that discussion, or a lot of ability to have that discussion before the budget gets adopted, if that's council's desire to add that. So, and that can take the form of one-time purchase, or it can take the form of ongoing subscription cost. Does that kind of help?
You did, but I want to make sure I'm understanding. So this 12 million, this 12 plus million, that's on the general expenditures page tab. It can be used for an ongoing if it is requested.
So if at the end of the year, when revenues come in,
Right.
say revenues came in at $100 million and expenditures came in at $95 million, you would have $5 million more revenue than you had expenditures. That $5 million then would go to your savings account. Okay? We would recommend not using your savings account to pay your rent.
I got you.
However, if the council, in planning for next year's budget and next year's capital program, want to add, in addition to what the manager's recommended, that can be added, and that can take the form of both ongoing or
Okay.
one time. That's a council decision.
Yeah. I'll talk about it again during the police discussion. But thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Council.
All right, Councilman Hondros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Yates, for the presentation. Just so that we're all clear, so this, the presentation you made, that's 2024 to 2025 fiscal year, is just through 3 quarters for 2024 and 3 quarters for 2025, correct?
It's through the fiscal year, 3 quarters. So started in June. I'm sorry, started in July. So it's through the quarter ended at the end of March.
Right. What I was saying is it wasn't for a full 12 months. Thank you.
That's correct.
Can you put slide 4 back up, please?
There you go. Is that the right one?
Yes. Can you speak more to the 4 funds in red, which essentially these are our income streams, correct?
Correct.
So what's can you speak more specifically what unrestricted intergovernmental revenues are?
Sure. So unrestricted intergovernmental revenues, primarily in this case, are sales taxes or other revenues we get from other governmental entities. I believe that also includes the PWC payment.
Pilot
lieu
is
of
in there as
the
well?
pilot. So that is trailing, and as I mentioned, that is trailing prior year, and I think that's more of a timing issue because the state, they're kind of inconsistent a little bit on how they provide that sales tax. So
That's fine. Can we confirm if the pilot's in there or not? And if it is, can we break the pilot out separate in the future?
Sure.
Then miscellaneous revenue, can you speak to that, please?
I can. So miscellaneous revenues are any number of other kind of non-operating revenues, if you will. They could be sale of assets. They could be any number of It's hard to say. I mean, there's a variety, and I couldn't give you that variety. I don't have it off the top of my head.
And then the other two, other financing sources and non-operating revenues?
Sure. And the other financing sources, again, they can be debt, they can be any non-operating revenues, and then of course there's other non-operating that are kind of loose ends, sale of assets, one-time settlements, that kind of stuff.
Thank you. And then last question on slide 6, general fund expenditures. So I asked you about the reds, now I'm going to ask you about the green. The other appropriations. And I don't know if that's the right slide or not.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there you go. Can you speak more to other appropriations?
Sure. So other appropriations is things that aren't assigned to a department. So they're transfers, they are, that's where we keep the salary increases for the entire city, or for the entire general fund. It's kind of the non-operating appropriations bucket that's, I don't know a better way to explain it. It's kind of like, it's all the pieces that don't go directly to operations of a department specifically.
You said salary increases?
So, for instance, when we do the salary increase and we put in the money that we talked about, the $8 million, $10 million, we put that in a centralized place and then ship that out to departments when the salary increases occur. We don't start with them there because during deliberation with the council, we may need to change that number. So we keep it centralized and then disperse it as needed through the year to ensure the departments meet their salary needs.
For that first year of that new
For that
salary
first year,
rate,
and
and
then
then
the
after
following
that,
year
it'll get
becomes the
programmed.
base.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. Council, any other comments or questions? All right, Mr. Yates, what do you need? The report received?
Yes, please.
All right, Council, entertain a motion to receive Mr. Yates' quarterly report. Councilmember Davis.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move to receive the report.
All right, I see Banks McLaughlin. Is that a second, ma'am, or you have a question? All right, Council, any other questions, comments? All right, we'll look to you for your votes to receive this report. And, all right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Yates. So we look forward to the conversation we had upstairs, just a continuation that when this comes back, as these department directors, we heard this from Mr. Hewitt, as department directors tell what they need, that the council has the option to determine what and if will be funded this year,
Yes, sir.
and what the source of funds will be, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, thank you. Council, moving to next item, item 8.03, Fire Department. And I see Chief Braden. Chief Braden, you came and got your uniform back? Yeah, I got on too. Okay, all right, capital improvement. I got excited. I thought I was getting ready to get Braden back up here. All right, 8.02, Mr. Yates. Still got you.
Excellent, thank you. So the second part tonight, I mentioned earlier, we're going to provide the recommended CIP for the council's discussion. Tonight, we just want to present it to you. We have planned in our work session plan is to have a work session around this and specifically some of the components around stormwater and so forth. So tonight I'm happy to answer any questions, but knowing you just received the document and the information last week, it's a fairly substantial document. So this is really for the public and for you guys to kind of get an initial presentation, and I'll be happy to clarify or answer any questions that come up through that. So when we looked at the capital program, we did a couple of things. We set some kind of guidelines and we kind of set some process. So the very first thing was it's built on the council's strategic priorities. You came together in the January, February timeframe and put together your strategic priorities. You adopted those, I believe, in the last meeting. So we worked around those as much as we could to include community safety, economic growth, youth engagement, infrastructure renewal, and connectivity. Next, we looked at a CIP, our capital improvement program, that we can deliver. It's really about capacity. Capacity drives this program. And I'll talk a little bit about the different types of capacity, but really when you look at the financial affordability, the organization's ability to deliver projects, and the market's ability to absorb projects. Because all of those factors impact our ability to deliver those. We wanted to be sure we were balanced throughout the entire program. So that means not only in year 26, which is what's in front of you tonight is the discussion, but also all the way through year 31. So the program, I refer to it as balanced down and across. So every year is balanced in and of itself, and the entire program is balanced. So quick overview, there is about $446 million of projects recommended through FY26, which means all the appropriations to date plus the new amount in 2026. And then through 2031, there's about $664 million of projects. We look to close about 132 projects, and this is a continuation, the list from last year, the fall, and then a new list from January on. And that's going to allow us to reallocate about $9.2 million. So as you go through and as we look at the budget, we were able to offset a lot of the cost with reallocating that project funding to keep from having to issue more debt or to allow us to do that. So the council's strategic priorities, I mentioned them earlier, comprehensive approach to community safety, revitalization efforts and housing needs, expanding the parks and rec opportunities, fostering economic growth, and then enhancing transportation and connectivity. In addition to that, we had some core principles. So as we evaluated projects, we looked at complete what's been started. So what are those things and what's necessary to finish the projects we have growing out of the ground now? So that are in planning. We wanted to ensure that capacity, the financial capacity, which means the ability to fund the projects in a sustainable, durable way. The organizational capacity, our internal ability to manage, plan, and execute those projects. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. And then market capacity. When you go out to market to advertise for a project and you only get one bid, that's not the most advantageous for the city. There's no competition in that. So what's the market's ability to absorb that project within the local labor force, within the local available subs, materials in the region, and so forth. We also wanted to look toward maintaining the city's assets. We've had a lot of conversation about tennis courts. So we wanted to look at getting the city on what I would refer to as a maintenance and renewal or replacement and renewal program, where we're consistently funding the year-to-year maintenance of facilities, roofs, HVAC, tennis courts, sidewalks, any of those ongoing infrastructure.
Don't we already have that?
Excuse me?
Don't we already do that?
We do in some areas. In some areas, we relied on the designation process or year-end fund balance to be able to do that. So what we did with this program, with the program that's in front of you tonight, instead of waiting for the designation process to ensure that there's funding in every year, we programmed it out over the life of the CIP. That includes your fleet replacement and apparatus also for the fire department. Then finally, ensuring the financial durability and sustainability. So we wanted to be sure that we are financially balanced in this program and that we can withstand those economic fluctuations and those issues that come up. And be able to, as projects possibly grow, which we would expect, inflation and so forth as you get further out in the program, we're still able to address that and being able to fund those. So the recommended dedicated tax rates. The city really uses 3 dedicated tax streams to fund its capital in addition to other sources. The first is the Parks and Recreation GO bond rate. If you remember, the rate you adopted in 2025 for that purpose was about 1.42 cents. The recommended for 2026 is 0.83, and that is actually down from the revenue neutral rate of 0.95. The Public Safety and Housing GO bond, remember we added 2.5 cents for this and added the licensing fee. Our recommended rate is 1.6 cents going forward, but I will tell you one of the reasons it's not lower is, if you remember, we didn't program the $12 million of housing bonds. This program assumes the $12 million of housing GO bonds will be issued at some point during the program. So we were able to slip that $12 million back in to the CIP where it wasn't before, because that 2.5 cents was insufficient to support the $12 million additional. Then the dedicated improvement rate was at 5.07 cents, and our recommendation is 4 cents. The revenue neutral on that piece was essentially 3.4 cents, and that's largely due to being sure we pick up those maintenance and renewal programs and all those different components. Our penny value right now for FY 2026 is estimated to be at about $2.348 million, and a little bit of change, but the round number. At our next Councilman Hondros and I have been having an ongoing discussion about this. And you're right, you weren't too far off. You're right on top of it. So we've been working through that. So your dedicated capital tax rates for all of your GO debt and your dedicated capital improvement rate is about 6.43 cents. As you can see, the funding sources, we have a healthy dose of the GOs, which are around items like the 911 center, the streets, infrastructure, and then, like I said, we added the housing later in the program. We also have LOBs, a couple of LOBs in this program, which are for the MacArthur Park. That project is about $22.9 million. Of that, about $19 million of it, give or take, is LOBs. About $3 million of it, $3.7 million of it, or $3.6 million of it is prior GO authorization. So that project's going to get a healthy dose of GOs. We have revenue bonds, which are funding our stormwater program. We have a pretty big chunk of state funding as well as federal funding. So there's a lot of sources. Your program for 26 is about $91.8 million. If you isolated just 26, as I mentioned earlier, $664 million across all the years. And we have about $355 million of prior approved projects in that. So again, this is for just for your information tonight. We'll be able to we'll delve deeper into this during work sessions. But this includes all of your authorized GO. So this gets all of your authorized GO out and into projects, as well as finishes up the parks bonds and does some other things. The CIP by fund, as you can see, Public Safety Capital Project Fund is about $20.5 million. The Stormwater is the other big fund at about $28.6 million. And there are a variety of other pieces. The Airport Fund, which is all funded with state and airport dollars, for instance, and a number of other projects. So we'll be happy to get into more detail. All of these are in detail in your book, laid out by department and project sheet. A couple of things I just wanted, I couldn't go past the CIP without kind of highlighting a couple of issues that we're monitoring and what I would refer to as risks in the CIP. The biggest risk, or some of the biggest risks to me and the staff, are geopolitical risk. So our ability to get things and our ability to, with tariffs, to afford things. So if they're 25% tariffs and we get that steel or we get that lumber or somewhere from not within this country, then that'll change the cost of projects, as well as it can be incredibly disruptive to supply chains. Political risk. You talked earlier tonight. We know that BRIC grants at the federal level are at risk and possibly going away. We know that the state's talking about the POW bill funding. So all of these factors represent a risk. A large chunk of our CIP, particularly in the stormwater and streets areas, are funded by those types of funding sources. Economic risks, inflation, interest rates, all of those things, recession, they all kind of put the future CIP, kind of give us a challenge in monitoring that. Market risk, the availability of contractors, I mentioned that earlier, and materials, and how we're going to approach that. If, as seen in the past, when we lack bidders, it causes a challenge for the city, both in quality of bidder as well as cost. So a limited market response can delay projects. There becomes that competing interest of getting the best price versus timeliness. And then finally, organizational capacity. And I say this from the end because I think it's important. On our next work session, Mr. Lindsay, ECM Lindsay, and the team are going to bring back some thoughts on how to manage capital projects. We've been talking a lot about it over the last few months. One of the big things is owners, advisor, and those different components. Those are in your recommended operating budget, but they will help us deliver the CIP. So we have strategies to try to mitigate a number of these risks, but the organizational risks specifically, you can mitigate by improving your project delivery methodology and managing your program. So what we give you tonight is a program we think we can achieve. What we'll give you on the 5th, and what Adam will give you on the 5th, is a methodology to achieve that program. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right. I see Councilmember McNair, you had a question? Or is that an old light? Is your button acting up again? All right. All right, Mr. Yates, the only question I have, I'm looking at the capital and technology improvement plan. Under camera migration is the only thing I see in terms of large-scale camera projects. Does that cover the LPRs or the license plate readers or the cameras that we've talked about? Because it's only $82,000 that was programmed for FY26. Is that the only thing that was programmed in here?
That is the funding that was requested, and I believe that's an existing program. I'll have to get you
So
any time.
when we asked upstairs about where the department heads make their request and how we see what they have requested, where will we find that in this book?
So in your book, there's a couple of places you'll see it. In the transmittal letter, there is listed in the narrative, but then also I believe it's starting on page 243 of your document. There are project detail sheets that'll outline which projects were recommended for funding, are the projects that didn't make the list of recommended for funding. So that is in more detail for individual project pages in the back of your book.
Let me rephrase my question. Where can we see what they had
That
originally
is what
had?
they requested.
So you said that this is the list of projects that made it or did not make it. So that means somebody got the list and amended it before we did.
That means that as we balance the CIP, we couldn't afford or fund everything that was in there. So those are the projects that didn't get funded at the balanced CIP.
All right, let me rephrase my question.
Okay.
Where can we find what they submitted?
That is what they submitted.
All right, so
in addition to what was funded.
All right, so you told me about that you've had to make a list that because you couldn't afford everything that was submitted. Where is the list that was submitted before you made your revisions to what you felt could be afforded?
So if you take the recommended list and the not funded list, the recommended the requested but not funded list, those two lists total everything that was requested. Nothing was taken off the list and deleted unless the directors asked for it to be deleted.
So page 240, 241 has project closures. So what page is this you're talking about?
243, I believe. If you flip to 243, then there's a table that shows you the list of projects, and then there are individual project pages following that include the detail around those projects.
Okay. All right, so we'll read it and get ready for budget time. So 243, these are all the projects that were recommended but not funded throughout this whole city?
That were requested by all the departments, and as we started the process, that's what was requested but not recommended in the funding.
Just this half a page of stuff?
And the project pages that follow.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Yates, thank you so kindly for indulging me earlier with all the questions that I had, but the mayor just perked another question. He talked about, you used the example of tennis courts and having to use funding to make sure that we have ongoing maintenance of those operations. My question is about software and IT. I know we had this conversation earlier, but I just want to make sure that we get it clear. How do we stay ahead of the game as far as software that we need for audit, or software that we need for finance, or software that we need for IT, so we don't find ourselves behind the eight ball when it comes to technology, when you talked about those cameras or those LPRs or those facial readers? How do we stay on top of that? And I don't want to say how do we prioritize it, because I know this final decision is up to council, but how do we emphasize enough that this is a priority enough which keeps our community safe?
Sure. So what you have in your document under the IT department is the recommendation for the IT projects, the technology projects related to those. What the process is, the IT department, along with the departments, put together a list of projects they believe across the 5-year window. Then the CIO and team go through and they look at those projects based on staffing capability and critical analysis. What the prioritization we generally work off of is things that were required for security, being sure we're secure in our network and our infrastructure, being sure that we don't have system failures. So both infrastructure and software systems, we want to be sure they maintain and work. And then third, we look at things that improve efficiency or improve operations. Then we fund those based on that recommendation. So there are things that fall out that will be reconsidered in future years, but don't necessarily rise to the level of those three factors being an issue at that point. There is more need than there is funding in the capital program.
I got that part. But what I'm trying to understand is you guys bring us the budget. I think you guys are going to bring us the budget the first week in May. When you bring us the budget, do you emphasize that we have vacancies, i.e. 37 police department, i.e. this many over here, this many over there, and you come together and say, we need this IT to compensate for the lack of personnel that we have in these areas, and this has to be a priority when you guys bring us the budget? That's my question.
I don't believe we've phrased it exactly that way, but when we come together and we give you the recommended budget, both the operating and the capital, we have vetted those projects with the departments. Gotcha. So the departments, as they've requested, as the mayor is referring to, everything they requested is there in the book. Again, some of those things, particularly in future years, or that were not critical this year, that may not have an operational impact now, but may in the future as we kind of get through the years of the CIP, we will continue to monitor those and look for available funding as we get to those. So the manager is charged with bringing you a balanced budget. Again, so we have to make some decisions at some point to say this is recommended for funding, this is not, and then it becomes the council's discussion about what they wish to fund.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. All right. Council, seeing no further questions, you want to receive the report? Entertain a motion for that. All right.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that we receive the report.
All right. Councilmember McNair, I see your light this time.
You see my light this time?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. Is that a second?
Yes, sir.
All right. Second by Councilmember McNair. All right. Council, I look to you for votes on receiving the report. All right. Who are we missing? Mr. Benavente, he's still roaming around here somewhere. Where's he? All right. Motion carries. All right. Ms. Yates, thank you. I'm sure we'll be back into it in a few weeks with budget time, but thank you for your work. All right, Council, moving to 8.03, it's Fire Department 2025 first quarter report. Chief, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Major Petty was fussing at me about being fast, so I'm going to do my best to keep this to about 30 to 45 minutes.
Oh, Miss Petty, you messed up.
Woo! I'm actually disappointed. I thought the standing room only tonight was for me, but they left, so...
It's still leaving.
Yeah. All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm Fire Chief Kevin Dove here tonight presenting the 2025 first quarter. The first quarter has been very exciting for us, and I want to start with some highlights. With your support and commitment to our firefighters, we completed our first ever cancer screenings on every member. This is a big deal. We're one, if not the only one, we're one of the first in the state, and we thank you all for that. Nobody ever wants to hear that they have cancer, but hearing if we had only caught it sooner is an even greater tragedy. We installed 444 smoke alarms and 100 carbon monoxide alarms, all free of charge to our residents. We received and placed into service our new hazardous materials unit and 2 new pumpers. And we have entered into a contract with Paws for People for our first ever crisis response dog. The FFD handlers have been selected and will be finishing up their training in May. We look forward to introducing the program and our dogs soon. This is not only an added service to our members, but to the residents and visitors of Fayetteville as well. This dog was funded through donations, and we thank the Fayetteville Firefighters Benevolent Fund, the Fayetteville Professional Firefighters Association, and the Bowen Strong Foundation for making this program a reality. We had 3 retirements: Deputy Chief Miguel Alvarez with 30 years, Deputy Chief Ronnie Willett with 28 years, and Captain William Autry with 26 years. We thank them for their service and are excited to watch them spend time with their family and enjoy retirement. With retirement comes promotions. We added Deputy Chief Adam Ferguson, Assistant Chiefs Brian Mims and Patrick McCardle, Battalion Chiefs Lorenzo Hartwell and Josh Hagan, Captain Kevin Horn, and Lieutenants Robert Owens, Amanda Savage, and Chris Suggs. We look forward to working with each of them for the continued success of the fire department. There were 6,737 calls in the first quarter, which is 240 less than the 2024 first quarter. EMS and rescue incidents continue to be the lion's share of our responses. Service calls are second, followed by false alarms and good intent calls. Response times remain consistent and under the desired 8-minute total response time. The two parts of the response within our control, which are alarm handling and turnout time, remain below the 1:30 expectation. So we thank Miss Lisa and her crowd for helping us get the call processed and our folks for getting out the door quickly. As you know, travel time fluctuates based on the location of incidents and response safety. Of the 327 fire responses this first quarter, 95 of those were structure fires. 51.5% of those 95 started in the kitchen. Cooking fires remain our number one cause of structure fires and the primary focus of risk reduction efforts. There was one civilian fire fatality and there were 17 civilian injuries. There were 6 firefighter injuries, but thankfully none of those were severe. The dollar save ratio was at 96% with a total fire loss estimated at $2.8 million. 10 of those fires were intentionally set and there were 2 lithium-ion battery fires. You'll notice at the bottom of the slide that there were 716 documented firefighter exposures. We now document exposures to psychologically stressful events as well as carcinogens. As you know, first responders, and that's fire, police, EMS, 911 operators, and everybody, we share part in everyone's worst day. Our residents' stressful, traumatic, and tragic events become our stress, trauma, and tragedies over time. Each year, there are more than 100 first responder suicides, and that number is growing, unfortunately. It's my job as their chief to identify their exposures and provide them with the resources they need to have a mentally sustainable career in retirement. The top 3 fire losses were in single and multifamily residential structures, with the largest single loss being $404,000 on Quebec Court. There were 4,402 medical responses. Of those, 385 were vehicle accidents. 52 responses required Narcan administration by the fire department, and 70 responses were cardiac arrest. There were 65 hazardous materials responses. The majority of those were natural gas leaks and related emergencies. Now we're moving on to human resources. As of March 31st, we had 14 sworn vacancies and 1 civilian staff vacancy. With the 11 approved overhires, we are looking to seat a 26 to 28 person academy starting on May the 12th. There were 8 resignations, and of those, only 1 left for another fire department. The other 7 left the fire service, and that's better than what we used to be, and I credit that or appreciate your pay commitment for that. There were 3 retirements and 2 dismissals. The demographic makeup remains stable at 23% underrepresented population. I've got a new slide for you tonight. I'm going to show you the hiring statistics from this spring's hiring. We have a few things to tout here. We saw an increase in total applications. Of the eligibility list, 38% is underrepresented population, and you know our goal is 30. 6 of those are females, which is the most ever on one list. So our recruiter's doing his job. We completed 29,626 hours of total training for the department. That averages out to roughly 84 hours per member. We've increased the number of inspections completed, and with that increase, there's an increase in violations discovered. Top violations found were fire extinguishers, electrical hazards, and exit egress concerns. Now we're moving into community risk reduction. Our folks attended 41 community events, gave 10 station tours, checked 38 child safety seats, taught 109 people hands-only CPR, and interacted with over 3,700 folks. One thing I should have actually put on the highlights but I missed it, is last year we charged our investigator to develop a youth fire setting program. He and our community risk reduction specialists have become trained in youth fire setting interventions, and this quarter they completed their first 2 successful interventions. We found that oftentimes young people set fires for reasons such as curiosity, boredom, or because of other underlying issues. When possible, our folks have interventions to cure their curiosity and or work to identify and address the underlying issue. This creates more positive outcomes for the young person moving forward. Our goal and hope is to work hand in hand with the Office of Community Safety as they get settled in to enhance this program, access additional resources, and participate in other programs that provide positive outcomes to our youth. I'm proud to say that we are one of the first, if not the first, in our region to do this, and we've already been requested to assist neighboring agencies with interventions. Lastly, as always, we beg you to please do not allow yourself or anyone you know to lay their head down at night without a working smoke alarm. Give us a call at 910-433-1116. Go to the website or scan the QR code and we will come and install smoke alarms for you free of charge. If you don't live in the city, if you live in the county or another town, they will do the same thing. And actually, if you call us, we will transfer you so it doesn't get lost. And with that, I'm happy to answer your questions.
All right, thank you, Chief. Did have a couple questions here. I have Councilmember Davis, Hondros. Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Green, Davis, Hondros, and Hare.
Man, I think that's a record.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief Dove. We appreciate your report. I just have one thing I'd like for you to comment on because I think as a realtor, I see them in the incorrect place all the time. Will you please educate the public just a wee little bit on where a carbon monoxide detector needs to be located?
Carbon monoxide alarms should be located low. Most of the new ones are the plug-in type, and then you say you plug them into the wall, and obviously that's lower because carbon monoxide is heavier than air.
I see them repeatedly, as I know we all probably do, up high. Carbon monoxide is a heavier gas. It stays lower on the ground, and that's where they need to be. And I just see it all the time done incorrectly, so therefore it's ineffective. So
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
And if anybody has a question, they can call, and we'll come out and check it for them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Green. Councilmember Davis and then Hondros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, sir, for your presentation. My question was, I know that you guys come to the community watch meetings and you let the community know about the trainings for the CPR, but can you let those who may not attend community watch meetings that are listening, how they can get in touch with you all so that they can be trained in CPR?
Absolutely. They can also call the 910-433-1116. That goes to our community risk reduction folks, and they'll get them on the schedule. And I think there's also a link in the website.
All right, Councilman Hondros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief, for that presentation. FFD has about 340 firefighters, is that correct?
354.
354. Thank you. Can you go to slide 12, please? The medical incidents responded to. Out of the 354 firefighters, how many are certified for first aid?
All of them.
All of them. If you could just highlight for the viewing audience, in the event of a car accident or any of these overdose, cardiac arrest, someone picks up the phone, calls 911, you guys are out there first, right?
Yes, sir.
Even before EMT. Just speak to that a little bit. Why is it that firefighters respond more than the EMTs? And we just thank you for that.
All right. In the early 90s, the fire departments nationwide became more involved in the emergency response field. As areas populate, in Fayetteville, we have 17 fire stations and roughly 40 staffed apparatus. EMS at best has 16 to 18 ambulances on the road. So obviously there's more of us than there's more of them. And as a force multiplier, we're there to help because the overall goal is to get people to help as fast as possible.
I appreciate that, Chief. I just think most people If they need a police officer, they call 911. They assume the police is going to come. If it's a fire, an actual fire, the fire is going to come. And if it's a medical emergency, they kind of expect the ambulance. I don't think the majority of folks realize that the FFD does also respond to all of those medical calls. So thank you, and thanks to all the firefighters in Fayetteville. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Thompson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the report, Chief, and thank you for all my colleagues who I know appreciate all of our first responders. But part of our job is also to make sure that we give you everything that you need to be successful. So I appreciate those brand new fire trucks that's coming out to the southwest part of Fayetteville. That is greatly appreciated. But one of my questions is, what about the hazmat blankets? I know that you said you have a few of them to cover battery fires that are for parking decks, but have you received any more, and do you need any more?
Right now, we have them in all the parking decks, and we have them on our battalion chief vehicles. And we feel like that's adequate for now because the size of them, we would have to redesign our apparatus.
Next question is, we talked about it last year, and that is for the, I guess you would call it the physical we did with all the firefighters for them getting tested for the cancer rate. Are we going to support that again next year with funding?
I sure hope so. It's in the budget.
I mean, so you can make sure that's part of your budget in June.
It's in there from now until forever.
Well, once again, we appreciate everything that you do for us. So thanks a lot, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. All right. Council, look for a motion to receive a report. Councilmember Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I motion we receive the firefighters report.
You had trying to get y'all home before sun up. I tell you. All right. So there's a motion by Councilmember Thompson to receive, and a second by Councilmember Davis. Council, I look to you for action on receiving the report. All right. Motion carries unanimous. All right. Chief Joyce, how are you, my friend?
Good
All
evening.
right.
I'm doing well, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council and retirees. I'll hear him in the back of my head the entire time that I'm up here tonight. But as I know I get ready to present this evening, I can understand that the events from this past Saturday during our Dogwood Festival weigh heavily on everyone's mind. The men and women who serve our community are well trained and they're well prepared to respond to emergencies when they're called into action. I'm proud of the quick response of our officers on Saturday night who ran towards the gunfire within mere seconds. Their quick actions are a testament to their commitment to not only our city, but the citizens we serve as well. The Fayetteville Police Department, we conduct numerous operations throughout the year from a local level to a national spotlight, as we saw during the past year during the presidential campaigns. We work with local, state, and federal partners to ensure the safety of those in attendance and to create a sense of security at those events. And as with all major events, we conduct after-action reviews because we want to look at what we did well, lessons learned, and what we can do to improve. I know she left just a little earlier, but I wanted to thank Director Suarez for her and her staff who not only worked with us Saturday night when those events unfolded, but throughout the entire Dogwood Festival, and how we've always been a part of that process with the Special Events Committee and being able to be there to assist with those planning purposes, as she stated earlier as well. So as we prepare to go into the first quarter review, of course we know that's January through March, the topics that we'll cover will be our crime statistics, our crime trend analysis, crime fighting strategies, and we'll conclude with our community engagement. When we look at the overall crime during the first quarter of this year, it's a true testament to the men and women of the Fayetteville Police Department. This year compared to the same time in 2024, overall crime is down by over 21%, which represents 835 less incidents. Arrests between misdemeanor and felony, they both, it was one less compared to the same time last year, representing about 0.5%. But again, Overall crime is how we gauge ourselves through those statistics, and I'll share more, of course, as we go through. When we look at total crime over a 10-year trend, for the first quarter of this year, that represents 3,118 incidents. If you go at a statistical projection to look at the end of the year, we would be projected to come in even lower than the last 2 years. That's something that things were put in place during Chief Braden while he was here, things that we have continued during that same time frame, and look at those projections of how we're going to cast out for the upcoming year. When we look at traffic stops, they are down by just a little over 4.65%. And you'll see in a later slide in the presentation that represents just about 600 traffic stops. 600 traffic stops can be anywhere in a week to 2 week period. So that number is not far off from where that number was at this time last year. And we continue to focus on those issues that are presented to you from your constituents during community watch meetings, complaints that we receive, whether it be through social media, looking at areas for aggressive drivers, things of that nature. Crimes against society are down by a little over 11%. Those are the things where we see where people are carrying concealed weapons, drug violations, any other violation in which the state could be considered that victim. And our criminal apprehensions, as we saw on the previous slide, was down by about 0.5%, but again, that was fairly consistent with the same time last year. As I present this slide, I know the focus is on the homicide investigations and the increases from this same time last year to current. While these incidents are concerning, they keep me up at night as it did Easter morning, we also have to look at the statistical data for the overall reductions in violent crime and property crime. Those numbers truly represent the exceptional work of our personnel who remain committed to responding, investigating, and holding those persons responsible for these incidents. It truly takes the entire community to address crime, and there's not a one-fit-all solution to address these issues. From my time, from when I first came on with Chief McCarthy, through several chiefs to Chief Braden, of knowing that we have to work with our community partners to be able to address some of these issues for crime and disorder. We look at some of our partners, look at the Crime Stoppers program just past Friday, where they had their annual barbecue. They are an integral part of being able to help us and being able to solicit information anonymously to assist with some of these issues where they have a record-breaking year. We need continued partners to help us in these efforts. When we do look at our homicides, we had 3 incidents and 3 victims in 2024 at this time, compared to the 14 incidents with 16 victims through the first quarter of this year. We look at all other areas in the violent crime, they have seen reductions during this first quarter. But again, I know those are the numbers that we are looking at now, but we still have an entire year to go in how we're going to be able to address these issues. Our homicide unit through January of March of this year, again, we have spoke about the homicides. We also see our overdoses where we've had a slight increase in that. Also during this first quarter, or right as we've ventured into the second quarter, we have started back with our Faith in Action events. We've held our first 2, that is led by our faith-based community, but at the same time, we also work with North Carolina Harm Reduction, individuals who are out there to provide naloxone or Narcan to individuals who might have some type of dependency. Not only do the officers have naloxone and Narcan available to them when they're responding to overdose calls, but also our friends at the fire department of being able, as they're some of those first responders who can be the first on scene and hope to be able to reverse some of the effects of the fentanyl that we have seen causing the overdoses. In 71% of our homicides this year, a firearm was used, representing 10 firearms used in those incidents. And our suicides are down significantly, represented as well in this quarter. Again, looking at a violent crime 10-year trend, having 2 great years over the past 2 years. During the first quarter of this year, that is represented for 699 incidents. And again, you look at those statistics, where should we fall if we continue in the same path, been able to gain ground and make those reductions? We should be able to come in with that projection, again, under the number from the end of 2024. Our domestic aggravated assaults, we saw decreases in most of all of those categories with a slight increase in our felony assaults. Again, as you'll see in the next slide, we continue to work with the Phoenix Center, who not only reviews all the incident reports that are taken by the officers, but they also are able to provide resources to those victims of crimes, not only of domestic-related incidents, but also sexual assaults. You know, during the past quarter, we also worked with them as they had a walk-a-while event in downtown. All of those monies going to assist them with the things that they have in place. And they are a great partner that we have had throughout the last few years, and their commitment to not only the Fayetteville Police Department, but the community, and being able to assist victims with the services that they need. We'll move to our sound thinking or shot spotter, and we look at the total alerts as by district. Throughout the 3 districts, we see where Cross Creek, of course, had the most notifications from ShotSpotter, and that is along our Cliffdale and Raleigh Road corridors. As a result of that, throughout the entire city, that resulted in 4 firearms being seized as a result of the notifications, and 3 arrests that were made. And you can also see in the graph the number of shell casings that have been recovered during those ShotSpotter notifications. The next slide, what it shows is the total number of alerts with no 911 call or those that came in conjunction with a 911 call. The majority of those notifications came without a 911 call, representing 113 compared to the 28 that came with an accompanying 911 call. However, if you look at the bar graph to the right, having additional information from someone who is able to call in is able to assist us in being able to recover additional weapons or being able to provide information about someone they may have seen in the area to assist with them being able to make an arrest in those incidents as well. Again, the ShotSpotter notifications are working how they should, but it does assist a little bit more when we do receive some of those 911 calls from our citizens. We look at our federal partnerships through the first quarter of this year. As you see, we had 2 individuals who were federally sentenced. There are 23 additional individuals who are either waiting to be indicted or pending adjudication, over $20,000 seized associated with that activity, and 8 firearms seized and taken off the street. You know, one of the things that we don't have referenced here because we did not want to have photos is during the first quarter of this year, not only we work with the United States Attorney's Office, but we work with our prosecutor's office, the public defender's office, a number of nonprofits and others as we hosted a Operation Ceasefire call-in, a notification. And that was where we were able to identify offenders who, through the Department of Adult Corrections, who are on active probation or parole. How can we get them in to offer them resources, give them an opportunity to make some differences? We had individuals there to help with job placement. How you can fill out a job application, how you can help with parenting skills, different things that really are going to help them to be successful. And one of the things we're doing differently this year is we're going to continue to follow up with those 11 individuals who came to that call-in, which represented a good number, of being able to go back to them and offer them services, see how they're doing, what were they able to take advantage of, and how can we help them moving forward in the future. Our property crime trend over the 10 years, if you look at the first quarter of this year, that represents through March 1,962 incidents. And again, looking at projections at a statistical standpoint, again, with that, we should project to come in, again, under 8,184 incidents for 2025. When you look at property crime, one of the biggest things is that has been a decrease in every single one of those categories, representing over a 23.1 decrease. One of the things I take note of is in our motor vehicle theft, where that has plagued us over the last couple of years with motor vehicles that are being stolen. Some of those are trends, as you've heard in the past, through TikTok challenges, things of that nature. The property crime unit, working along with officers, have been able to identify certain individuals, making ground in that, and we'll have to continue to do those things so that we can be successful in reducing the number of motor vehicles that are stolen in our city. Juvenile crime, we look at the custody orders through the first quarter of this year, And a custody order is in which where that juvenile has been taken into custody and they have been taken to the Juvenile Justice Center for a number of charges in that. We have also had a number of incident charges which could correlate with some of the petitions. That's a number that we want to be able to share with you during the second quarter. What are the number of petitions that have been filed, working with the court counselors as well. Some of the numbers that are highlighted on the second column are some of our assaults, our robberies, our motor vehicle thefts. We still have juveniles who are breaking into vehicles, stealing those vehicles. But at the same time, we're also working with a number of partners that we look forward to in this coming quarter, of working with partners like Maris Maximus, who can provide referral services to guardians and parents of these juveniles. Working with Heal the Ville, who is going to be hosting an event in May to have individuals come out. How can we address some of the youth incidents that we're seeing? What are they going to be able to do for over the summer? Working with our faith-based community to give them an option. Working with our own Parks and Recs of how we can give them additional opportunities of things that they'll be able to do over the summer so they don't get involved in some of the incidents like we saw this past weekend. You know, I give it a testament to our officers who were very observant during the Dogwood Festival of coming in contact with a young child who was 14 years old, walking inside of the festival along Hay Street. They're able to identify that this person had something on them, stop them. A 14-year-old child had a loaded, stolen firearm on their person. It was stolen 5 days prior to when they came in contact. Those are the things where we need the community to say, what can we do? Why did that child even have the gun to begin with? Our school resource officer program, currently we have 9 certified SROs. Those are in our high schools here within the city. And again, we have 58 part-time traffic control officers who are assigned to the schools, and of course they assist the children with getting through the crosswalks, getting the buses in and out of the school parking lots, the parents who drop off and pick up their children in the morning and afternoon, assisting them to get out of the parking lots as well. And when we look at the data here, this goes back, it's not based on a quarter, but it goes back to the beginning of the school year. So that goes back to August of 2024. So from August of 2024 through the end of March, officers have responded to almost 1,500 calls for service at the schools and have documented just 359 incident reports. So when you go and you look at where could we end up being at the end of the school year, which is, talking with a teacher the other day, there are only about 22 days of actual school left. That could generate over 2,000 calls for service and then an additional 500 new crimes during that calendar school year, which of course would be from August through May of this year. We look at our narcotics vice suppression unit and the seizures that they have seen. Even though that cocaine and methamphetamine is down, you look at the fentanyl and heroin seizures, and most heroin is testing positive for fentanyl. So that's why you see that combined in that same category. But that's up almost by 3 kilos compared to the same time last year. Again, can go align with some of the overdoses we're seeing, but it also goes back of being able to work with Norcana harm reduction, of them continuing to reach out to us. How can we assist you? Do you need more naloxone to be able to provide in the community? The seizures of marijuana and our firearms have remained consistent. Our homelessness and mental health responses, again, Ms. Braggs, she works and takes numerous calls trying to help individuals, help them with referral services, working with Mr. Redding and the folks in the Office of Community Safety of how she can assist persons. So again, she works tirelessly through those efforts. Of course, she faces challenges of being able to provide some of those services, but she does an exceptional job in what she's able to do. Our 911 Communication Center, I know Ms. Reed was happy to report at the end of March she was fully staffed. And that is truly a testament to her and her team. Go ahead and give them a round of applause. During that first quarter, they have dispatched almost 48,500 calls for service. And even more so, looking at the number of telephone calls that they process during that same time frame. They're doing an exceptional job. They recently, as you acknowledged them, during Telecommunicators Week. So they continue to work hard. Those individuals who have been in training, they're out on the floor and they're doing training. So I know they'll be prepared to take over some consoles soon. We go to our traffic enforcement. We look at our number of crashes this time this year compared to the first quarter of last year. There has been a reduction in that. And when we look at traffic enforcement, again, those personnel are working in areas where we have seen aggressive driving, where we have seen those issues with speeding and how they can be able to have an impact on that. You know, one of the things that we adopted this year was drive wise, stay alive in 25. Again, you know, we look at our pedestrians, we have seen a reduction, even though that is only one. But we also are focused in areas where there's a high pedestrian traffic, along Owen Drive, Boone Trail areas, where they've been able to disseminate literature on how you can be safe, where you should cross at an intersection, and also out there to, you know, through enforcement to educate individuals. Don't cross at this location. Go to the stoplight. Go to where you can go to a crosswalk to be safe and not represented as being a pedestrian death. We go to our traffic stop map, and you can see it's primarily along a lot of our major thoroughfares throughout the city. And during the first quarter, there were 13,317 traffic stops made across the city. And then I believe in the next graph, you'll see that that was a reduction of about 600 compared to this same time last year. And again, that can be just a period of about 2 weeks with different events that are occurring. But again, those traffic stops remain fairly consistent during that first quarter compared to last year. So our traffic stop data report those totals. When you look at the TSR data that goes to the state for white, black, and other drivers, again, it remains consistent to those ratios compared to last year at the same time. Our search rates will also on the traffic stop reports is for black drivers, white drivers, and others. Out of the 280 searches for black drivers, there was 169 times in which narcotics were located, along with 68 times in which a weapon was located.
Sir, I've got a couple of info questions, Chief. I'll let him get through this next one, and I'll circle back because I've got Councilmember Hare Green, and then I could have you next.
It wasn't a long question. I just wanted to understand, is that
Councilmember.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Let me get through these slides, and we'll pick up there.
So when we look at white drivers, out of the 80 vehicle searches, during those 80 vehicle searches, narcotics were located 43 times compared to weapons 11 times out of those 80 searches. I don't know if that will answer your previous question. Okay. That's no worries. Other drivers, again, 13 vehicle searches, narcotics 10 times, weapons 5. Go to our Office of Professional Standards and Internal Affairs. We look at the quarters comparison. And use of force, there were 17 times over this quarter compared to 14 last year. And internal department investigations are those things where we are looking at what are we doing? How can we do better in holding those persons accountable? There was a decrease of 2. Our citizen complaints were down significantly. And again, we accept those citizen complaints in various forms, you know, through social media, someone who comes into the station, through emails, through anyone who, you know, calls us and lets us know of an issue that they have. We want to make sure that we thoroughly investigate that, and our compliments remain consistent as in years past. Our use of force review, there were 17 times, again, in which use of force was applied. As you look at those categories, pointing of a weapon was used the most, 6 out of those 17. But when you look at the 17 incidents compared to the actual number of arrests that we had, that resulted in a use of force less than 1% of all arrests made. Our departmental staffing, and I'll explain these numbers. When you look at our sworn budgeted versus our actual, the vacancy does show that it'll be in 115, but in those 115 positions, there are 37 of those which are frozen. Additional 14 that we don't have staff for SROs. So that would look at approximately 64 positions that we could fill right now. And again, we're working through those academies, some that are already in place. Again, we had individuals who started just today at Fayetteville Technical Community College to go in line with also the academy that we started here at our own training facility in February of this year. For 911, again, were fully staffed at the end of March. They did have 3 frozen positions, but again, they were fully staffed based upon their numbers at this time. Again, we had the 9 certified SROs. We've had 7 sworn lateral hires. We spoke about our academies as well, and we also had a lateral officer hiring event that was conducted at Manna Church in January earlier this year. Our departmental staffing, you'll see here, we look at our resignation, retirements, and dismissals. We have individuals who've resigned from our sworn staff, so they have a number of reasons that they may leave the profession, or they're moving to be closer to family, or they're married to someone in the military who has to move. We've seen 2 resignations in our dispatch center, and with our civilians, that does represent 11, but we have seen more so with some of our traffic control officers who only work in a part-time capacity, but it doesn't represent our overall civilian population. So we'll go to our community engagement. Of course, we had our BLET graduation, and those individuals are currently in field training. So they'll look forward to complete that over the next few weeks, and they'll be officers who will be deployed into our community. We had a career day, and of course, being able to interact with several children at the school. We had our spring promotion ceremony as well. And Manna Church has been a great partner for us for hosting retirements, promotion ceremonies, and our BLET graduations. We had Read Across America. Major Hicks wants to read Fox and Socks again. That book was extremely long. Chief Braden got the easiest book, I do believe. He set us up that day. Then we had Jail or Bail, of course, the Fayetteville Police Foundation. They did extremely well. I know a number of you who came out there. We were trying to call folks to try and get him bailed out, and people still wanted to keep him in jail. But it was a little chilly that day, but as long as he had a monster, he was good to go. And again, we concluded with Chief Braden's retirement ceremony. For those who were out there on March 31st when he did his final call, if there was a dry eye when his daughter was on the other end of that line, I was shocked. That was one of the first times I've heard him choke up. And I know it meant a lot to him and his daughter still being able to, continue a part of his legacy here at the Fayetteville Police Department. And with that will conclude the presentation, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you there, Chief. Do have Councilman Behair, Green, and Benavente.
Well, Chief, thank you, man, for your report. We had a lot of pluses. That was good. Thank you for coming out and joining us over at Seabrook. You told us about some of those improved numbers. So thank you. It's always ongoing. And I didn't see anything in here, and I guess it's going to be budget. But I still want to go back to what I spoke about upstairs and what I spoke to just a few moments ago when Assistant Manager Yates spoke. And since we are low as far as with all of our officers that we need in place, have you been looking at, and there have been some discussions about this because even with Chief Braden had come before us at our last one, but have you been looking at all forms of technology that, and even more, I know we have the facial and we have the license plate, but will there be a request for even more? Because we do need more cameras around. We do need more cameras in some of the locations. That would also help us. How are we, in something that wasn't a part of your presentation tonight, but as we look at speed sensors, that's a big thing that comes up during our crime prevention. You know, a community wants a speed sensor in their neighborhood. And I was surprised to hear, and I may be wrong, but we only had like 1 or 2.
They have them assigned to each district for those speed sentry devices, yes, sir.
Yeah, so maybe even the technology there to improve that count. But help us in knowing where is it that you may be lack in, and what do you see us perceiving to help even more with as we get ready to go into our budget season?
I don't think anyone in that executive level here at the police department would ever say that we could not benefit from more technology. You know, whether that be cameras, whether that be license plate readers, whether that's other software to assist in the review of those things. But, you know, as Mr. Yates spoke, those type of things have reoccurring cost. They're not just one-time purchases that allow us just to make that purchase and we don't have to worry about those things. We have to worry about maintenance agreements. You know, what happens if that fails? If it's damaged, how do we replace it? So a lot of those things come with reoccurring cost, not just being a one-time purchase.
So that's your answer? So you mean you're not asking to improve the technology just because it's a recurring cost? We have throughout our entire city budget, we have a number of reoccurring costs. So
I would never sit here and say no, that we're not going to request additional technology. I'd love to have the entire city in cameras. I'd love to have the entire city in license plate readers. But to know what that would take that would take years to get to that point. But how are we going to look at getting those additional cameras? How do we get some of the features in place? We already have been replacing some of the cameras over time that have additional lenses to be able to give us multi-direction of a lot of those things, having successes with the cameras, with the license plate readers. So to stand here and say no, that we would never request that would be wrong. But how do we look at being able to get those things when we know that that's going to be a multi-million-dollar type of venture?
Okay. As we look at our SROs, you know, that's been a big conversation for our city. And do you know of any other avenues? Are there any grants? Are there any things that peer cities are doing? And I know everybody is looking at everybody as far as trying to increase our manpower. But how do we go about that? Are we, as far as to increase our manpower?
Well, we have to look at how we're advertising. You know, speaking with some of the individuals from Marcom who are working with our staff here, with our recruiting staff, how we can expand those recruiting efforts. You know, with Fayetteville being one of the largest cities in southeastern North Carolina, we know that we become a hub to a lot of other cities, some of our smaller towns. How can we look at advertising in some of those other places to be able to attract qualified candidates, maybe other officers who are already certified here in our state? We know we've had success with individuals in our own community, also bringing officers from other states who are certified as well. We also need to look in and around southeastern North Carolina of how we can attract those individuals to come here to Fayetteville.
All right. Well, thank you, Chief, thank you for an improved report. We're glad to see that. We still know that it's ongoing, and thank you, sir, for your report tonight.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Hare. Councilman Green.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief Joyce, for your report. We commend you. You've stepped up and you've stepped in, and you've had a lot of challenges you've had to face in your first few days here, and we appreciate your efforts and your staff's efforts. On one of your first slides, I don't know what the number was, you showed the felony assaults were up by 24%. I believe it was from 25 incidences to 31. Can you give us a sense of what the nature of those assaults were?
So with those assaults, let me pull that up. That can be the nature of the actual assault. It could have been where a weapon may have been used. In those assaults, it could be related to the actual injuries that the victim sustained that would upgrade that from a misdemeanor to a felony.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Benavente.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief Joyce, if you can go back to one of your very first slides, just showing that 10-year trend, this is a question that I need help with. I think most members of council need help with. We see how you guys can show statistically that we are on the right track. Folks in our community say that they don't feel it. How would you recommend that we kind of help respond to that when obviously the data shows that we're trending in the right direction?
I think when we look at those incidents, those are things that we have to share with our community when we are at community watch meetings. How can we get them engaged to where they take ownership in these numbers? We talk about having community partners. It is more than just us having that voice, of others to be able to share that information. It takes everyone to say, listen, I don't believe those numbers. I know when it went out on social media tonight, there's some folks who disagree with those numbers. I would be glad to sit down with anyone. We run those reports when we sit down with the individuals in our crime information center, how they look at those reports. Everything is reported to NIBRS. I think we do an amazing job of getting those incidents reported to that national database to show where we are. There are times that, we look at our homicides. We can't underrepresent that number from what has actually occurred in our city. We have to face it. We have to address those. And we have to look at that. We also have to be able to champion the times for the work that our individuals are conducting here in the Fayetteville Police Department.
I know you said there's been 14 homicide incidences, but I know that by and large, y'all are very successful in apprehending perpetrators and then, converting on those arrests. Do we have an idea of those 14 so far this quarter, where we're at as far as apprehending folks?
There have been an arrest in well over 90% of those incidents. There are at least 2 that remain unsolved right now. And again, they're working diligently with the number of personnel that they have, of being faced with the challenges of the number where we are in right now compared to last year. But they work tirelessly, again, working with the community through Crime Stoppers, of being able to get those anonymous tips that are sent into our police department to investigate. But they will continue to strive to where we hopefully can get to 100% clearance rate.
And then I see on slide number 17, you had comparison between calls for service and reports. Have we gotten any data back from the Sheriff's Department in our ability to compare this to now previous years before we were involved with Cumberland County Schools?
No, sir.
Okay. Has a request been made again?
At the last time when we had met during the combined meeting with city-county liaisons.
Okay. And the very last question, and this was the one I was trying to interrupt you on earlier. You can look at slide 25, 26, it doesn't really matter.
Yes, sir.
When we say 68 weapons, are we saying per traffic? Not, well, what I'm saying is that that's the total number of weapons, but a particular traffic stop may have had more than one weapon potentially?
That is correct. You could have had narcotics and our weapons during that search at the same time.
All right. And I guess this is just like for future reference, I guess. Previously, we had a little bit of percentages underneath, and I don't know if maybe these bar graphs are actually relative to the size of the bar, right? You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
I think 169 is actually probably a lot higher, closer to that 280 than it is closer to 68. I think we see that in particular on slide number 28, where I think 10 and 5 are the same size, which I think is just the graphs, right? But sometimes I know some of us are visual learners, and it kind of helps us kind of see what is exactly going on here. And the very last one, again, if we're just kind of given some requests, slide 22, when you see when the folks in the data room are looking at traffic stops, is there someone right now differentiating between speeding incidences versus other types of maybe DUIs or compliance issues? I mean, are there sort of separate maps? Because this, I think, probably includes all of the above.
Right, there are ones that we can look at that are, checked through that traffic stop report that show, was it a regulatory violation, was it a speeding or a stoplight issue, or even a driving while impaired.
Right, and I guess I would love to see, because this one right now just is, everything's stacked on top of each other. It just looks like, everything's happening everywhere. But I think when we try to think about our stops and searches and how to continue to improve on those issues, it would help to kind of maybe dissect this a little bit. So if I end up emailing you about, an opportunity to do that, please don't mind me. Thank you very much, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Banks McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief Joyce, for the presentation. I know we talked a bit about funding opportunities, and I do serve on the Governor's Crime Commission, and currently right now we're scoring applicants for funding. I think this is something I mentioned to our staff some time ago as far as ensuring that we're taking advantage of funding as far as filling out these applications, and not just even for the city. I know we have Judge Whitfield in the back too. This is pertaining to you as well in Cumberland County. So I'm hoping in the near future, we go ahead and take advantage of the opportunity, because that funding is very beneficial for our community.
Yes,
and the
ma'am.
next opening, I believe, is in November.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mayor Pro Tem Jensen, Davis, and Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was prepared to receive the report. Okay. So before I ask for a motion to receive the report, Chief Joyce, thank you for a great report. The numbers look great, and we do have some work that we have to do on the other side, and we appreciate all the hard work you're doing, and I want you to know that me, and I can say most of the council we're here to support. So with that being said, I would like to accept the report.
All right, there's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Jensen to accept the report, seconded by Councilmember Davis. Councilmember Thompson, did you have a light press?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, let me mention something that was said about how do we portray ourselves in a positive image. First, let me say it starts with us. Chief, you mentioned that community watches. I try to praise the great job that our police department do everywhere we go. And the prime example that we just had this weekend that I talked to the mayor about, and I talked to staff about, and I even talked to you about, Chief, was the incident that happened at the Dogwood Festival. Well, when I woke up the next morning, the first thing I heard was shooting at the Dogwood Festival. Well, the shooting wasn't at the Dogwood Festival. The shooting was outside the scope of where the perimeter was of the Dogwood Festival. So I'm trying to get people to understand is what we have to do is we have to portray a positive image amongst ourselves, the mayor, council, leadership, every city official, so our residents can take heed to that and grab a hold of that, and hopefully that'll be instilled in them so they can pass on the same information that we're passing on to them. But my questions are, Chief, you talked about homicides, but you did not separate the domestic homicides with the regular homicides. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we had 3 or 4 domestic homicides the first month of the year. So when you look at the 14, and when you put the domestic incidences, you didn't have any homicides. At the next presentation, can you separate those, or is that possible?
Yes, sir, we can.
My next question is probably for Ms. Reed or yourself. And it was about the 911 call center, and it was about Q&A reviews. And as I have emphasized twice since we have been here, that is our job to make sure that our employees are qualified, trained, and equipped to do the job that we ask them to do. So if there's any ambiguity in any of those reviews, is there any type of additional training or school that we can send them to so they're not making the same mistake twice?
And I think that is based upon the percentage of the calls that have come in, that they make those quality assurance reviews to make sure, is there additional, it's almost going back to like where we do an after action review. what did we do well? What were some of those lessons learned, and what can we do better? So during those reviews, those things are occurring within the communication center.
Well, one of the reasons I asked that question, Chief, because I know our 911 call center handled a lot of those calls that came out of the western part of North Carolina. Those are some of the things that they were not used to. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe those are some of the calls that they're not used to receiving. So under those quality reviews, how did they do? Do they need more training in case something like that happens somewhere else where they'll be calling Fayetteville for assistance?
Well, and not only that, but you have to look at the wellness of those telecommunicators who are working as they're dealing with tragedies not only that were occurring in the western part of the state, but also incidents that occur here within our community. The same officer wellness that we need to worry about for our own officers here and making sure that they're well holistically.
Well, Chief, my final question is, and I wasn't going to ask this question, but you brought it up. You talked about the wellness of our 911 call employees. How are we looking at our 911 call center? I'll table that question. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I see you, sir. Councilman Benavente.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did neglect to ask this question because you brought it up, Chief Joyce, and Councilmember Thompson reiterated it. The incident that occurred at the Dogwood Festival, was it before or after 9 p.m.?
A couple incidents.
It was just before.
Thank you, sir. The last thing I want to address is, I think, a statement that Councilmember Jensen was trying to make, but I want to make sure everyone here understands it crystal clear. Every single member of the city council supports the law enforcement, your team, and what you guys do. And any effort to try and suggest otherwise, I think, is a big mistake. I've attended all of the graduation and promotion ceremonies I could because I enjoy seeing the people behind the badge, the families, and otherwise. Every single day of the week, I work at the Cumberland County Courthouse and work with our law enforcement folks, and I see a random sampling of the great work that they do on a daily basis. That's why I'm very excited about, Chief Joyce, you being in this position that you are in, and hope you get to continue to do so. Every single member of the city council is supportive of your office, regardless of what political position some people are trying to make right now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. All right. Well, Chief, thank you. We do have a motion to receive the report by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Davis. Would like to remind the public, and first of all, let me say to past chief, to you, to the other members of the Fayetteville Police Department leadership and otherwise throughout the organization, we appreciate the hard work you do. It was powerful when you said that when the incident came up, your guys ran toward the gunfire, not away from it. Okay, and that is important to show what you do every day, day in and day out, and we may not tell you the appreciation that we have for that because things could have been a lot worse. Would like to also remind that our job is policy and budget. We are having a meeting, a special meeting on Monday to address the things that we can do to help you all be more successful, from technology to even legislation if needed. And I've released some of the ideas that I'll ask City Council to discuss and consider and add some of their own recommendations. But whatever it is, we want to give the additional tools in the toolbox to make the community a better place. But at the end of the day, legislation, police officers will need the parents and the families of the people in the community in this partnership to be successful. But thank you with what you're doing, sir. With that, Council, I see no more lights. We'll take a motion to receive the report. Oh, you did? Oh, okay. All right. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Chief.
Good job, Chief.
All right, Council, moving to the public hearing for 9.01. All right, Chief Braden, we still got a shirt for you. All right, Council, as we move into the next item, the public hearing for 9.01. Ms. Colley, seemed like we've talked about this item numerous times, but this is the public hearing, so we'll see what the public has. We are preparing for the public hearing where City Council formally seeks your input. Individuals designed to speak in the hearing must have signed up to speak with the city clerk by name and address before the start of tonight's meeting. We will begin with the staff presentation, then we'll move into the formal hearing. 15 minutes will be allowed for those in favor and those opposing items. The item being heard during the hearing. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each, unless by previous arrangement a single spokesperson may have been designated, in which case the spokesperson may use the entire 15 minutes. When the city clerk calls your name, we ask that you please come to the podium. Please clearly state your name and address for the record, and you may then begin to address the council. When the light changes from green to amber, it means you have 30 seconds remaining. The timer will ring at the end of your allotted time. With that, Mr. Colley, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, sir. So, City Council, you saw this proposed plan earlier this month at a work session. So, good news, I took about 5-6 slides out of it. But it's still pretty beefy. We do this once every 5 years. Just a reminder of what community planning and development at the Department of Housing and Urban Development does. It helps with community improvements, parks, public spaces, helps really invest in our low-income areas of our community where we might not have enough resources to allocate otherwise. Invest in affordable housing, making sure everybody's got a safe place to live, and economic opportunities. We're pretty awesome here in Fayetteville with using our CDBG funds for economic development, and kind of a standard in the state in what we do. We get calls pretty frequently about our programs and how we do them, and it takes a lot of staff time and effort to do so. The grants we're talking about tonight are all through HUD. It's the Community Development Block Grant. I'm going to call it CDBG from here on out. Home Investment Partnership, HOME. Emergency Solutions Grant, which is a new one. This is our second year on that. And our Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, which is HOPWA. It's about our third or fourth year with that grant. So this year we did do our 5-year consolidated plan. Essentially what that is a needs assessment and a market analysis of our housing. We pull a lot of data from census information from the American Community Survey, the Community Housing Assessment Survey. Then we come up with a 5-year strategic plan with community input. We roll that into a 1-year plan. The whole way through it, we have opportunities for citizen meetings, for comments from the public, for social media input. And to give you an idea of what we're talking about here, it's about $4 million in federal grants. So we did some prioritization of needs. Number one came out as affordable housing. The supportive services was second, and home repairs. The other categories that we looked at were also public facilities like those parks and things like that, and economic development. So we came up with 8 priorities that kind of closely align with all those different grants that we have. Number one is obviously a priority the council's had for several years now, is affordable housing. Number 2 is public services, which is funding of nonprofits for social service type activities. Neighborhood revitalization includes demolition of slum and blight and also improvements in neighborhood parks and things like that. Economic development is a lot of our small business programming. Nonprofit capacity building, we're only one of 2 in the state that do that. We have a lot of really talented folks here that could use a helping hand in forming a strong nonprofit that can last with a strong board. So we have staff dedicated to just doing that, and they've gone off to Duke and a couple of other places in North Carolina Nonprofit Center, things like that, to take classes and bring that stuff back to our community. We have a grant to address homelessness. That's the Emergency Solutions Grant. We'll talk a little bit more about that. HOPWA is that housing and supportive services for folks with HIV and AIDS. And then effective program management, because at the end of the day, we got to plan for all of this money, then we got to execute, and we got to make sure it all gets done within the timelines required. So that's kind of the goals for that whole 5-year plan, are those 8 goals. Now, when we look at our annual plan, like I said, about $4 million in new money with about $600,000 in old money gives us about 4.7 in resources across all those different grants. The process, we start in November, having stakeholder meetings with different nonprofits, teaching them about our grants, how to apply for those grants, what the process looks like, and then we open it up through the holidays, November until the end of January, for people to put in and apply for that funding. Then we create a draft plan. We put that out for public comment. We go to a whole bunch of different public meetings all across the community. Then we go to our redevelopment commission, which is your citizen-appointed advisory board for our department. Then we come to a council work session, which we did earlier in April. And then tonight, we're looking to have our public hearing and have council approval of this plan so that we can submit it to HUD. Any new funding out of this grant would go into effect July 1 with the new fiscal year. So last time we presented this, we gave you a chart of different organizations that we funded. That is still in your agenda packet, but we have some questions about what do those organizations do. So we put this little graphic together. You can see we've got folks working on family and youth programming, medical services, and homeless prevention and intervention. For the Emergency Solutions Grant, which is all about homelessness, we've got 3 organizations that we funded with a total of $143,000 we have available. Fayetteville Urban Ministry provides emergency assistance and housing. Myra Varese has a housing program that they do out on Quality Road. And then Carolina Collaborative Community Care, 4C, does a lot of health outcome-based homelessness services. So a lot of our grants have a very specific, you can't go, thou shalt not spend more than this on this type of activity. And then the rest of the money is for us to kind of decide what we want to do with it. So I just wanted to show one slide where we show how much we're investing in affordable housing on an annual basis. Fayetteville Urban Ministry is getting about $500,000 to do homeowner rehab. That is matched by Habitat for Humanity for another $500,000. We also have our affordable housing. I know we have some questions about the Housing Trust Fund. This is one of those streams that goes into the Housing Trust Fund, and we're putting $828,000 of home funds into that. And then we have a Chodo Reserve. I know, Councilmember Thompson, you asked about the Chodo last time around. So I want to just kind of clarify here. This is the federal government says you have to put this much money aside in a special reserve account. We can fund those groups at way more than that. We cannot put less than that in there. So it's kind of like having a restricted account. You know, we don't want to put more restricted than we have to, but we still have other funding available. We did have a couple of applications for tax credits this year. Now that program, they apply to the state to get a tax credit. It's based on the property and the location and a whole bunch of other factors in about a 36-page manual called the Qualified Allocation Plan. The city's place in this is that we can help ensure additional affordability in those tax credit so that they can bring housing to more folks. A lot of times these projects might not be feasible without the city's investment. And so we put out $600,000 at low interest to developers, and we had 3 that applied. So the policy, since I've been here, has been let the state figure out who gets the tax credits and the development at the end of the year, right? So we give everybody kind of an even playing field. We don't pick a winner. So these 3 right here will be moving their applications forward to the state to apply, assuming the council adopts this plan tonight with these dollar amounts. From there, one of them will win, maybe 2. Some years we get lucky and we get 2 awards at one time. So you can see on the map where those proposed developments are located. So we did another thing this year too, since it was our 5-year kind of update to everything. We updated what's called our citizen participation plan. This plan tells us the steps that we have to take, the rules that we put on ourselves anytime that we add new money from the federal government or from HUD, anytime we change what we're planning on doing with money, things like that, so that the public has a right to know and more than that, to have a say in what we ultimately propose to you all. So right now, it's an interesting time at HUD. A lot of my kind of cohorts up in the HUD office took a buyout last week, and we're still getting our new HUD reps assigned and things like that. So with that being said, we usually have our figures by this point. We don't right now. We think we're going to have them in the next week or so. There's a chance we might not get them in time for the budget to get adopted for the new July. And so our game plan for that is to adopt the same as last year's budget. And then once those final figures get published, congressionally, they have to be published by August 16th. And so we would come back to council at that time and say, hey, we got a little bit more money, we got a little bit less money, and we need to adjust the budget up or down accordingly. So that's it. Tonight is kind of the completion of a very long process our team's been doing since November or October with a public hearing. So I'd ask council if you don't have any questions, we'd open the public hearing and ultimately close it and ask you to approve.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cawley. With that, we'll open the public hearing, Madam Clerk.
Mayor, we have no speakers for this item.
All right, with that, we'll close the public hearing. I think Councilmember Hare had a question, then we'll go to someone to receive the report. And
well, I'll just hold it because, well, no, I do want to help me to understand this. Chris, so you're saying because of the administration change would be the only reason why there might be a hold up in those funds actually being allocated, which normally are, and not because they were cut?
No, sir. We don't have any indication whatsoever that these funds have been cut.
Great.
It could be less. It could be more. It changes
Great.
every year, but cut, no indication whatsoever.
Okay. Mayor, I'll move to accept the report.
All right, there's a motion by Councilmember Hare to accept, seconded by Davis. Discussion on the motion? All right, council, I'll look to you for your votes. Mr. Colley, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, okay, got them all. All right, council, moving to, seems like there's a motion on the floor to accept the Sustainability Action Plan. Who's
moved,
presenting
sir.
that?
So move.
All right, come on up so we can accept this motion, sir.
We was trying to accept it before you got to the mic.
How you doing?
Understood.
Sir, really? We accept your
Oh,
proposal.
okay. I thought, okay.
Oh, Councilmember Davis, you want to make that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I make the motion to accept it, so I was looking at it, the Sustainability Action Plan, and I'm not sure who you are, sir. Sorry.
Hi, good evening. My name's Rich Swanson. I've been working with the city of Fayetteville, particularly Mr. Williams and Mr. Redding, a number of others on the development of this Sustainability Action Plan.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Our best two guys in sustainability right here.
So,
I believe it.
Okay, thank you. So as I was looking at this, and I was thinking, Mayor, there's some underserved communities in our city who are dealing with sustainability issues. And so as I see this plan, I want to know if there's an opportunity for you guys to incorporate an action plan for those underserved communities that are actually living in those environments or are continuously dealing with those. Is there a potential? I can make it a council member request, whatever I need to do, but can we look at ways to better serve in the underserved represented communities when it comes to sustainability? Okay.
All right, so can you get a motion?
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. At this time, I'll move to accept this report.
All right, there's a motion by Councilmember Davis to accept, second by Councilmember Hare. Any discussion? All right, council, look to you for your action. We're all for sustainability around here, sir. No debate on that. So thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you,
sir.
Brooke. Good job. All right, council, moving to 10.02. 10.02, determination of utility assessment. Mike is here, and I know Councilmember Thompson, this is your district, so I'm not sure who's present, but Councilmember Thompson, you want to summarize this item here, which is a part of the normal appeal process for this unique situation?
I don't mind at all, Mr. Mayor. Let me start by giving you some of the foundation. And I promise not to be too long, because I have
Yeah, we accept your report, too.
probably been on council. I'm probably here because of annexation. I remember when this courtroom used to be filled with constituents that had problems, and it'd be 30 or 40 of us, and we'd move right next door. And rest his soul, Mr. Mark Brown would be the one that would calm all of our nerves and give us the answers that we was looking for. And then once it got implemented, rest his soul, Mr. Bill Chris would be the one that answered questions before it even got to the council. The reason you guys haven't heard any PWC issues is because hopefully I have taken care of most of them before they even got to you. But this is a unique situation, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
And let me just say that the annexation started in 2006. It started its implementation in 2007. It's been amended over 5 times in 2008, 2010, 2012, 2016, and 2017. Annexation has 34 projects. 34 projects. The last 24 are in the southwest part of Fayetteville. I'm going to say that again. The last 24 is in the southwest part of Fayetteville. This project was supposed to have been completed in 14 years from 2006. We are now almost, 18 years out, and is still far from being completed. Annexation probably annexed over 30,000 people, most of it in the southwest part of Fayetteville. Even some in some areas that wasn't, that has private roads, that still wasn't going to get water or sewage unless they either formed an HOA or petitioned the city. Or sued, no, they could have sued the city, well, or petitioned the city. The bottom line in all of this is we have to start looking out for our constituents and our residents in the city of Fayetteville. The only conclusion that you can come to is that they had no other alternative than to wait 17, 18 years to get water or to get sewage. This gentleman took it upon himself to provide for his family suitable water back in 2010 and paid a cost for over $3,000. I don't think it's right for him to have to pay another $5,000 for just the sewage when the person that lives right next door to him is going to get sewer and water for the exact same thing. This assessment is not on PwC. This assessment is on the city that should be paying the difference of what he paid to get connected to water. These are individuals that's been paying property taxes for over 18 years and still don't have the same services that the rest of the city has. I would encourage my constituents and my colleagues here on council to approve this appeal so this individual don't have to pay twice for the same services that some individuals are paying for only once. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And I would move that we approve this, thank you for that, that we approve this appeal for this gentleman at 6920 Tayberry Court. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, so motion by Councilmember Thompson is second by Councilmember Hare.
With a question.
What discussion phase got Councilmember Hare?
Okay. My colleague, my friend, Lord knows I understand your cry tonight. And I will reiterate it again, being only one of the two council members that did not move to adopt the 30,000 plus residents back in 2000, whatever year it was. You have one that's sitting here tonight, and I feel exactly the same. But my question is, as we talked about this earlier today, I was trying to tell my colleague that in the earlier years, and I thought it still existed, and I guess the only one in here can probably answer that is the city manager. I think he was with me then, us then. Wasn't there a fund? I'm not going to get the initials correct because I'm off a little bit. It was either something like ESV. It was some type of fund, and I'm thinking it surrounded maybe at least 500, could have been more, but I just, for some reason, that was what I was discussing with my council member friend today, where citizens could get that assistance for hooking up water and sewer. And he had never heard of it, and I know he's a detailed guy, but it was kind of throwing me off a little bit that he didn't see that. And was I remembering correctly? Because those same kind of concerns that he was talking about with this gentleman and others are the same kind of concerns that the citizens was having back then, okay, initially. So could somebody help me? Could you respond to that?
Yes, sir, I can. And
Okay,
Chris
thank
Call
you.
is still here as well. That was funding that we had through community development. And after a thorough review, Chris, if you could fill us in on that program and its closure.
So as of right now, we've requested that in our budget for next year as well. But we've served about 3 people this year so far.
And what is it called?
It's our utility assessment program.
Okay, utility assessment.
It used to have an acronym along with it. It used to be grant funded. Now we use local dollars for that. And so, long story short, that it has an income qualification on it. So if a struggling resident, is looking for assistance, they can reach out to us. It's also on our website under homeowner resources, where we can help with that assessment.
Well, thank you, sir, and I'll be supporting the motion this evening.
All right, thank you. So there's a motion by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Councilmember Hare. We've had discussion. Councilmember Attorney, you had something?
Thank you, Mayor Colvin. Just some clarification on the motion. Is it for the difference? Is it for the full amount? Is it for the interest? What exactly would council be refunding or releasing?
It was for the difference, right? Okay. Here, there it is.
My motion for it to be fair is only for it to be the difference.
All right. And Councilman Banks McLaughlin, you had a question or discussion?
Yes, well, my first question is, what's the background with this? I know some time ago, it seems familiar, this is something that I was trying to propose to council, West Fayetteville, and we were not able to approve that, so I'm not going to be able to accept it because Cliffdale West has been fighting for this same exact thing for years, and we were not able to get that support. Now, is this something totally different? It's dealing with sewer
it is
connection?
a little different here.
Okay, well, can you tell me back?
Let me explain, Mr. Mayor.
Please do, thank you.
This is an individual who paid out of his pocket for his water to be connected to PWC. PWC or the city still wants to assess him an additional, I think he paid over $3,000, $3,100 and some odd dollars. Now PWC wants to assess him again $5,000 for hooking up water and sewage, which he already has water.
And that was back in
2010.
10, yeah. All right, Councilmember Banks McLaughlin. It's coming.
So I guess the question is, would these funds be coming from PWC and not
No.
the city?
These funds will come from the city, because the city are the ones that makes the assessment.
But they paid PWC was paid for the services.
Right, for the water
But
hookup.
PWC wouldn't be able to pay that?
The assessment is
I mean,
made by the city. The PWC doesn't make the assessment. The city sets the assessment.
I'll let her answer.
Mayor Colvin, PWC said they would have somebody here. I don't know if anybody, okay, they should be able to answer those questions.
Thank you.
And sir, as you come up, just for context, I guess the question would be, if the city did not do the assessment on your behalf, what happens?
First of all, I'm Timothy Smith. I'm in-house associate general counsel at PwC. I've been a lawyer in town for a while, though. But I don't really understand your question.
So we do the assessments, is what council members is trying to explain to her, because PwC can't assess it. So they come to us and request us to assess these fees to these properties. Because of the circumstances, he's appealed that assessment. And if the city council decides not to do that for this particular piece, what happens in that case? I guess is her question. So.
Well, I mean, again, you're correct. It's the city's decision. This assessment is a special assessment that cities can make in a bunch of different contexts under the North Carolina general statutes for cities. And the city of Fayetteville and PwC had a funding agreement for this phase of the annexation, phase 5, which stipulated what these assessment amounts would be, but it's up to the city to do it. And, you know, I'm not aware of any circumstances where the city has sort of set this precedent that they would give a refund to one particular, and here would be the concern from PwC's standpoint, is because we're sort of a rate, we have to abide by the rate-making authority statute. We have to deal with all citizens the same way. I think that's probably would be one reason you may want to take pause at doing this, because there'll be many others who could come forward with the same requests. And again, I'm not here to judge either one way or the other, just from a legal standpoint. If the city were to decide to do this, I mean, I think that would be well within their authority to do that. Again, this is all part of a contractual agreement with PwC, but
Well, I think what makes this a bit different is that he paid for water and then he came back and now is being charged for water and sewer. And you all have not been able to reach a resolution as to whether any consideration has been given for what was paid for water, now being billed again for water and sewer. So since this is a voting process each time, which, no council can bind a future council to anything, and just like with those agreements, I think that's what makes this unique versus people who just didn't agree with being annexed. That is a longer list. Mm-hmm. But this is unique because you actually have someone who produced receipts to show they paid for something, and then they're being charged again. But you all have not been able to work that out. That's why it's here before us.
Right, and again, I'm not here to make any sort of advocate one way or the other. This is the only time it's my understanding that this property owner has been assessed. The previous amount that was paid for access to water was not an assessment. This is a standard assessment. Again, as I explained, that the city can make and has agreed to make under this phase of annexation. And this assessment is for wastewater access. I believe the homeowner has previously paid for and received water access. I don't know that included wastewater. The assessments that the city makes on behalf of PwC is for sewer wastewater access and the impact to the sewer system that PwC maintains. So there is a distinction there. I think the reason it hasn't been resolved is because at PwC, we have to abide by, the funding agreement with the city, and we haven't previously assessed the homeowner.
All right. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I may, since he had a chance to speak, can I have the resident who would like to say a few words in his defense?
Well, I think tonight we'll kind of considering it. I think it was for clarity. I don't want to open the whole case back up because we've already had it. But let me go to Councilman Alejandros, and I just want to make sure council understands what we're doing. That you have the right to vote or not vote on the assessment, and then the impacts.
Well, can I clarify one thing though, Mr. Mayor, before we go any further? Because I read the entire 46-page agreement, and what we fail to realize is the reason they're considering a wastewater assessment is because during annexation, they have to supply 7,000 homes with wastewater, but they only have to supply 600 homes with water.
Yeah.
If it was flipped, you would call it a water assessment instead of a sewer assessment.
Right.
So it's just a play on words. Because once you already have the sewer lines dug up, it don't take nothing to put in the water lines, vice versa.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you. Councilman Alejandros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This question's for either attorney, I believe. So the annexed areas, no matter which phase it was in, at some point in time since the annexation, assessments were capped at $5,000, correct?
Correct.
The citizen or resident's portion to pay. Is that for water or sewer or both?
Both.
I believe it's described as a wastewater assessment. We don't make assessments for water, extension of water access and annexation. Again, I'm not here to advocate one way or the other.
Attorney Pulliam, is there somewhere I could get that answer?
I can get you the documents that I have. At one point, they talked about $10,000, and there was some clarification about whether it was $5,000 for each service, and then we resolved that it was $5,000 for both.
So
it's $5,000 for both.
Well, let's get some clarification to that. So we actually renegotiated the charter piece. I'm just trying to give you a little context. And Lynn was on
5 times.
PwC, yeah. But when it was redone, it was five. Originally, it was 5, 5, and 5, and that was the cap. So when they were providing water or sewer, the cap from the customer was 5, and it went from the city doing 5 and PwC doing 5. But yes, that's the answer to your question, Dina. It's 5 for water, sewer.
So if we can all agree that the $5,000 cap is for water and sewer, then second the motion or support the
Well, it's
motion.
already seconded, isn't it?
Thank you, sir.
I think DJ did.
We're ready for the vote.
All right, it's council. In fact, adequate discussion. Let's take the take the vote. And this is to, you want to repeat it, just so everybody's clear? And so it's not actually writing a check. This is just not assessing.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is for us to approve the appeal, for us to pay the difference of what he has already paid for his water hookup.
Is it refusal to assess it, or is this us writing a check? Because
No, it is, okay.
Because
for-
if we don't assess it, he's never billed for it.
Okay.
Which is, I think, is our authority. It gets a little more complicated if we're going to say finance write him a check.
That makes it perfectly clear. Then not to assess the property at 6920 Tayberry Court.
Yeah, and I think that is Madam Attorney, is that correct?
That is correct. However, he has already been assessed and billed, so this would be
And to alleviate any
a
late
release
fees or
and a
anything else.
refund because you're
All
giving
right,
the
all right.
difference there
So if we've already assessed it, but yes, the main purpose is to reverse that assessment.
for the difference.
All right, and that's the motion.
That's the motion, Mr.
All right. All right.
No.
Council, we're clear, right?
We're clear.
This is to reverse or to honor the appeal of the assessment. So if he's paid it, then of course he will be refunded because it will be as if he was
hasn't
never
paid
assessed.
it, so he won't be charged for
Correct.
anything. He will just be
Right.
paid for his water connection.
All right, Council, let's look to you for your votes. Who we're missing? Okay. All vote carries 9-1. Vote in opposition, Councilmember Banks McLaughlin. All right. Motion carries. So the city will be in touch with you. Mike, thank you, PwC. Thank you, Attorney. Scott, thank you for your clarification, sir. All right, Council, moving to 10.03. Homeless Mental Health Committee presentation. Mr. Colley, you're back. And Chairwoman McNair, I'll give you the mic. I hope your mic is working. Hope your buttons are working.
So I'll just kick this off very quickly in that we just kind of put a recap of the last year of the Homeless and Mental Health Committee meetings. We met monthly with Councilwoman McNair as the chair. We talked about the Fayetteville Cares Day Resource Center, panhandling, various encampments across the community, Lifeline Alliance initiative, and the pallet shelter concept. So through that, working with the chair of our committee, we came up with some suggestions and recommendations. So I'm just going to flip to that, and I'll turn the floor over. Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you want to speak to a little bit, Madam Chair, I know I've sat in with some of your meetings. It was a lot of ground you all covered, and if you want to just talk to a little bit before that, to that portion of it, before Mr. Colley makes the actual bullet points that is prepared.
I guess we'll get into the part of the pilot program. Is what we want to talk about, and that's why we have this item on our agenda tonight. We want to bring Mr. Ben before council to present the pilot program to council for approval to move it to tonight to move it to a work session. We've been working very hard with the pilot program. However, we do have some other things that we're looking at as well. So,
I'm sorry, Councilmember McNair. Are y'all able to see the presentation right now?
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's not showing up there. There, it just came up now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so this was the three items that we had talked about. One of them being the pallet.
Oh,
and then
okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I was looking around at the TVs going, y'all aren't seeing what I'm seeing. So hopefully that helps out.
So, Chris, you want to talk about 1, 2, and 3, and then?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, one of the things that we talked about, so I'm kind of the staff liaison for that committee. We talked about the Day Resource Center, the success that the Dream Center, Man of Dream Center folks have been having at running that facility. When we eventually talked about needs, some of the conversation came to security, particularly on the outdoor part of it. Our security screens everybody that comes in the building. But I'm sure most of you who have been actively involved in seeing the success of that center have seen that we've had some congregation outside. And so we had some discussion and a recommendation from the committee to increase the security presence outside. And so currently we have enough money to do that. We think it's going to be about $50,000 annually, and we've got some American Rescue Plan funds to take care of that one. The next one was a discussion about, panhandling across the community and conversations around, reminding residents of the laws against panhandling that council's passed in prior years, and that may help deter the activity, particularly in the downtown. And then we have an opportunity from the Pallet Shelter Company to receive a similar presentation that the commission received, the committee received on the what they offer and what their product is that they have been working across different communities in the country for.
And also, we're looking to have the county to participate in working with us on our homelessness and mental health situation that we have here. This committee has been working very, very hard to alleviate some of the homelessness that we have in our city. However, speaking on the Day Resource Center and all the other things that we have going on, this is a great opportunity to bring all this to the table so that we can prevent people from sleeping on the sidewalk, scooping them up and throwing them away and all this other kind of stuff. But truth be told, we all about one paycheck from being homeless ourselves. And so I think we need to do something. We need to do it right now. And I think this is a great opportunity with all this going on with the Salvation Army. I have tons of people that are reaching out to me to assist, and we have people that are qualified, people that are not qualified. I've been having meetings on top of meetings on top of meetings with individuals. I think we kind of like got a little lucky today. I spoke with a couple people today with bringing some other projects to the table. They didn't want me to talk about it right now, but however, it's very promising. Even whichever direction we go, we're going to have to do something as far as temporary housing with the pallet. They are not houses. They are not tiny homes. They're not houses that appear to be homes, but they're just crisis shelters to alleviate people from sleeping on the street in the heat and in the cold and the rain, and mothers sleeping in their cars with children, nowhere to go at night. When they go to the Salvation Army, it's closed down. But even before, they couldn't accommodate most of the people that did show up at the Salvation Army, and also our wraparound services. A lot of times they didn't have any place for these people to live, and also I can't leave out working with our street coordinator, Deanna Braggs. She has been a great help with getting these individuals, unhoused individuals, a place to live. Then also I've been working with Assistant City Manager Kelly. She's been hanging in there with me in the committee. She's there holding our hands and directing us in the right direction to make the right decisions so that we can get something done, and we need to get it done immediately. We can't wait any longer. And like I said again, this is perfect timing, especially with the Salvation Army closing, that we make a decision to hear Mr. Bennett, his presentation, move this to a work session so that we can hear it and move forward. If we don't come to a conclusion where we want the pilot program, then we can move forward to something different.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman McNair. And just to kind of recap this, as this presentation was coming forward, these were three basic recommendations that came out of the Homeless Committee, which summarized the several meetings that they've had with community partners. As we said earlier in the discussion, the county has agreed to be the lead agency for homelessness and mental health, and we're looking forward to working with Chairman and Vice Chairwoman Jones, who I think is leading that effort, as to the roles that they will play and the roles that they will need the city to play. But I think your meeting in this committee, the purpose when I established it was to find out where the gaps were. And these are the 3 recommendations that came out of there. The Day Resource Center came in and said that they are providing the services that they had contracted to do, but they could use some additional security services for the parking lot. That's the recommendation of the $50,000, and that's what the committee's recommendation was for the council's consideration. Panhandling downtown has also increased. We're seeing an overabundance of that in the commercial area. There are laws against it, but there are not a lot of signs. And so I don't think this is, the signage is for educational purposes for those individuals that may be down there that, I do spend a lot of time in the downtown area, and you have people who come in and out of our community, but a lot of cities have signs that discourage panhandling, which, of course, what we had in the past was something that the Downtown Alliance had put that said instead of giving to the person, you can give to certain organizations. But this is a request just for signs in the downtown area to discourage the panhandling. And we see that oftentimes on private property and in other communities. And so that was the recommendation number 2. And then 3, which Councilmember Harris Councilmember McNair was speaking of, was one of the recommendations, or the organization she met with was the pallet shelter. There were a number of advantages and maybe some questions that came with that. We also learned that the legislator is considering some legislation. A bill may have been filed regarding cities over 150,000 people being required to have a tiny home district. So whatever the law changes are, I think the sheltering and the temporary sheltering was the goal that I think Councilmember McNair had as a recommendation for number 3. So if there's an interest for council, we can take these separately. If there's an interest to ask for more information on the 3rd one to see maybe what comes out of Raleigh with their rules and regulations, and maybe find more information about item number 3, then it can follow her request to the work session. So, council, if you could consider, is there a consensus or any questions about the recommendation that the Manna had for the Day Resource receiving additional funding for outside security? And we've heard that time and time again during some of our public comment sections. So we will take these one at a time. Councilman Hondros, you had a question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Cawley. Where is this presentation? How many slides is this?
Just 2.
And where it's not in our CCAM? Why is that?
I have to apologize for that. I didn't get it uploaded in time. It will be uploaded tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Councilmember Benavente and Davis.
Thank you. I'm fine with the $50,000. That's not a lot. You said it was ARPA money, though?
Yeah, right now we've got enough funding to start immediately and carry us through next year, and then we would work through the budget process moving forward.
And so when we can't simultaneously brag about the Day Resource Center and then shirk our responsibility overall. I think that the county does what they do, but most of the time it's only because we started something. When we start the Day Resource Center, they then do something else. When we start the homeless reduction impact, then they try to do a similar ordinance. So I don't like this discussion, this way that we're framing it, where they're in charge of something and we have nothing to do with it. That's just not true.
That's their comment, not mine, sir.
Well, yeah, I heard it from you. That's the reason I'm responding to it.
They've said it.
We have a role in all this. We are more nimble. We are more agile. We're more likely to experiment and try things on a small scale. And if and when they're successful, I'm sure the county will love to sort of copy our homework and scale it to an even larger place. But we have a responsibility to folks experiencing homelessness in the city of Fayetteville, 100%. It is not a county exclusive any more than law enforcement is a county exclusive. When we talk about things that the county is in charge of, law enforcement is the top one. We still have a police department. So let's not act like human services, social services, mental health issues are not 100% just as much in our purview as law enforcement is. So I want us to take full, responsibility there. The second thing with the panhandling, I understand if people are on the busy intersection next to a stoplight, don't stick your hand out the window. I get that. But I would need a lot more information on signs reminding residents of laws against panhandling on a downtown area. So, Madam Attorney, I'm not sure if this has come across your desk just yet, because to me it sounds more like the safety considerations that happen on an intersection don't apply necessarily to our big wide downtown sidewalks.
Councilmember Benavente, this has not come to the city attorney's office yet, but I understand this would just be a recommendation to council. So if council approves, then at that time it would.
I see. Well, I would just be very cautious about that second one. Everybody, Durham has tried to do things that ultimately got reversed for violations of people's First Amendment rights. You don't have that same sense of urgency or sense of security issue on an intersection. So I don't think I'd be interested in discouraging otherwise free speech in our downtown. And then thirdly, take it up with the judge, Mr. Mayor. That's what they decided, that asking for money is free speech, giving it is the same. And then what was the third thing there?
Third thing was the temporary shelter.
I mean, bring them on, right? I mean, hopefully they give us a good deal and make it a good dollar figure. I think the frustrating part for most people is just how much are we willing to spend to incentivize pallet shelter, right? We experimented with the tiny homes. My understanding, Mr. Cawley told me differently, no one came, right? We kind of gave an offer, we RFP it, and unfortunately no one.
That's not what happened.
I'm asking, well, can you have some clarity then?
Yeah. We had a company from Greensboro I initiated about 5 years ago, maybe. They came, gave a presentation. But there were a lot of questions about where the homes went, who would operate it and run it. And so the council at that time didn't have enough clarity on where they were. It was kind of a new thing, more so than it is now.
So Mr. Cawley, maybe Mr. Mayor's correct and I'm misunderstanding something. I thought it was a matter of the deal wasn't sweet enough for somebody.
So the mayor's correct, and it's about 5.5 years ago now because it was my first week on the job. But we did bring in some folks from, I believe it was Asheville, who had created a tiny home village. They run a nonprofit. That's what they do. They created that and managed it. So in my time here, we've really tried to branch out on affordable housing and talk to smaller scale developers and nonprofits about how we can help finance things like that. To that end, yes, we've had an open-ended invitation for almost 4 years that nobody has come towards.
Oh, okay. So I was also right.
Yeah, it's one of those
Not
things
about
where
tiny homes. That's about affordable.
Right.
housing.
Yeah, but so smaller scale construction, the tiny home thing is kind of a thing that's floated out there. I mean, our habitat homes are generally, 1,100 square feet, which,
efficiency
yes,
right.
And so either way around, as long as it meets minimum housing standards and building codes, we could help finance it. But again, that nonprofit that the mayor brought in, all that time ago, they run it. And so that's the continual gap that we have with all of these types of housing solutions.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think, to me is the real question at the end of the day is, do we want pallet? Do we want whoever these new 2025 folks that are doing it to come or not? And then it's just like when Robert Van Gien says, hey, this corporation is considering Fayetteville. Do we want them or not? And we're either going to put together the package that's going to get them to invest here, or we're not. We're either going to give them the investment or the tax rebate or the tip, or whatever we need to do. We either do or we don't. So I guess, Madam Councilwoman, as you are kind of like bringing these folks in and as you're advocating for this, I just want to make sure that you feel strongly enough to encourage the rest of our colleagues to really put our money where our mouth is, because we can make ourselves attractive to someone like this, or we can kind of do the bare minimum, and then when they don't, come here, we can just kind of shrug and say, "Oh, I guess no one wants to come." Well, we didn't really make it sweet enough for them. So let's do this if we're going to do this.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Sounds like the last two are going to be up for discussion, but I would like to make a motion. I would like to make a motion for the first one that we go ahead and proceed with that, and they can go ahead and get that implemented.
All right, so there's a motion to move forward. Recommendation number 1. Can we put that back on the screen?
Yes.
All right, which is additional funding for the day resource for additional security.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Banks McLaughlin. All right, discussion on the motion. Councilmember Thomas, I just saw your light. Was it discussion or?
I had discussion, Mr. Mayor, but it wasn't about
All right, so let's dispose of one, and then we'll see where we are on 2 and 3. All right, council, look to you for action on 1. Okay, all right, motion carries. Good job. All right, item number 2. Councilman Thompson, you had a question. Let's see who else we had.
Mine's for item number 3, if you want to
Okay.
proceed, Mr. Mayor, until we get to number 3, we'd like
All
for you
right,
to proceed.
Councilwoman Hare, you had one for 3? I mean for 2?
Put that back on the screen. That item, please. Oh, put that item back on the screen, please.
Can they leave the screen up?
Yeah. Even though we've already moved on bullet 1, I didn't have a problem with bullet 1 or bullet 2. My concern was I would like to have some additional information. I think Mr. Colley was saying that he wasn't able to upload or did not upload this presentation. I'd like to hear more about this presentation because I don't quite have full clarity on that part.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that we're not getting up on the screen. I think
Yeah.
you just stepped out to figure that out.
What'd you say, Councilman McNair?
For the pallet?
Yeah. We're on the way to number that. Let's get to number 3, and then I got you. I got your button pushed. All right. So can we get a motion? No, let's just skip number 2. Well, council member, hold on. We may end up there. Madam Attorney, is it a violation of a law that you're familiar with to put a sign up?
This item will require more
Some research.
attention. There are some First Amendment implications, but we can implement time, place, and manner restrictions. There are other ways to achieve the goal if that's council's interest, but it would need some additional work.
All right. So this will just be for more information if there's a consensus to obtain that, council.
Both of those, then, I guess.
All right. So let's see if we can dispose of number 2. Is there a motion to get more information on number 2? Can they? Okay. That's the screen. Huh? All right. Councilman Davis.
I guess I'd like to move that we move this to the work session with the pallet as well, so we can get more information from city attorney.
All right. You all right with that, Councilman McNair?
Moving it to the work session with the pallet.
This and the pallet.
For 2 and 3.
Which will be your presentation.
For 2 and 3.
So
All
we
right.
can. I'll let her just make the motion for both of those.
So it's Councilman McNair has motion to move 2 and 3 to the work session for. Come back with the. Okay.
Shelters and about the panhandling.
All right. There's a motion by Councilmember
So our
Harris,
next
seconded by
work session.
Councilmember Davis. Discussion on the motion? All right, Council.
You have a discussion?
Yes, I would love to support the pallet shelter vehemently, but I would ask that you consider removing the panhandling because it's an unnecessary exploration into ultimate violation of people's civil liberties. Can we just stick with the things that we're all in agreement with so we have some really great support and separate those two? Because then we can know who's about trampling the civil liberties of our citizens, and those people can support that. I don't want that to get conflated with a good idea like a pallet shelter.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I thought we was
Well-
trying to eliminate these one at a
Well,
time because I had discussion.
All this motion is not saying you support or you don't support it. This is saying that
Move
you're
to a
moving
work
it to
session.
the work session, all right?
Yes.
The motion is to move
To
it to the
work
work
session.
session,
Yes.
okay? And
You
so.
want it separate?
It's your motion. So
You all
it's a
right.
motion and a second.
You all
So
right.
you can, all right, you can move it to the work session, Councilmember McNair, and it'll be there for a
We
presentation.
can, yeah, because there's a research that needs to be done
There you
on
go.
that. We can move it to a work
All
session.
right, so there's a motion, it's been seconded, we've had discussion, council, let's vote.
There's research, right, that needs to be done. Am I
Yes.
correct?
That's what the motion is, yes, ma'am.
All right.
The motion passes.
Oh, look, I
right.
got to vote on my own.
All right, motion carries, those voting in opposition, Councilmember Benavente. All right, council, good job, that's a tough subject. Item 10.04, go to Councilmember Hare, which is the chair of the Appointments Committee. Thank you, Mr. Colley.
Thank you, Mayor. And as we get ready to slide on home in an adjournment, let me move forward
Just gonna
with
spend the night.
the following recommendations of 5 appointments to the City of Fayetteville Boards and Commissions. and to remove one appointment from one of the Community Police Advisory Board. And that particular item of the Police Advisory Board, all council members have received that through, well, all of these through email. So for the Public Works Commission, the nominees are Commissioner Donna Porter and Commissioner Rona Garrett from September 1, 2025 to September 30, 2029. There's a motion. The next item is for our Personnel Review Board. That is Ms. Chelsea Burnett. Our Planning Commission is Ms. Maybelle Rodriguez Lorino. Y'all just kind of keep your head down on that one. Y'all just keep your head down on that one. And for our final nomination for Public Arts Commission is Chelsea Burnett. And the removal, as I stated earlier, from the Community Police Advisory Board is Mr. Richard Chandler Jr. Mayor, I move that these nominees and removal be accepted.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, there's a motion by the chairman to accept the committee's recommendations as stated, seconded by Councilmember Thompson. All right, discussion on the motion. All right, council, look to you for your votes. Unanimous. Good job, council. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Have a good night. 6 hours.